After Wang Wei was ejected from the pagoda trial, he stood in silence, deep in thought. Over the past few months, he had successfully passed 5 trials, but 2 of them had left a profound impact on him. The first was the Chamber of Mirrors of Retribution, where he was forced to confront his true self. The second was the trial of greed for power, which tested his resolve and desires. Both trials carried the same underlying message: what price are you willing to pay to achieve your goals? Wang Wei had always been a confident man. He believed that with his methodical planning, he had an 80% chance of proving the Tao and ascending as a great emperor. However, what he could not predict was whether his journey would change him. Would he still remain true to his original heart? There was a saying, "Time is the enemy of us all." For mortals, time was a force that led them toward the inevitable silence of death. Cultivators, though granted extended lifespans, were not exempt from its influence, only delayed. But what about great emperors? They had transcended time, escaping its shackles and achieving an infinite lifespan. Yet, Wang Wei now understood that time itself remained an eternal trial for them. Could their hearts and minds withstand the ravages of time? After witnessing countless eons and endless changes, could they still claim to be the same person they once were? Time, in this sense, was a curse, a relentless erosion that could corrode one's essence until they became something unrecognizable. Wang Wei realized that his true cultivation focus must be to never lose sight of himself, to always remember why he pursued the Tao in the first place. And what was that purpose? To become an emperor? No. That was merely a step in his journey. His true purpose was freedom, to break free from the shackles of time and space, life and death, cause and effect, and even fate itself. To Wang Wei, fate was the greatest enemy to his path of freedom. Thus, he decided that the Tao of fate would become the foundation of his cultivation, and the Tao he would use to ascend as a great emperor. Only by understanding the machinations of fate could he learn to control it, manipulate it, and ultimately destroy it. When the day arrived that he could achieve all of this, he would be truly free. At that moment, as this realization settled within him, Wang Wei's Tao heart sublimated. A phantom of an emperor, ruling over all myriad beings, appeared behind him. This was his proof of a young emperor. Unlike before, the phantom was no longer an illusory blur. Wang Wei's face could now be clearly seen within the shadow. As soon as the phantom emerged, a grand and oppressive aura enveloped the disciples and elders observing the 5th trial outside. Many felt an instinctive urge to kneel before this supreme existence, and many did. Some disciples, overwhelmed by the sheer pressure, collapsed to their knees, unable to lift their heads. Even those who resisted found their respect and awe for Wang Wei multiplying tenfold. The young emperor phantom lingered longer than it had the first time, but eventually, it too faded. It seemed Wang Wei had yet to fully embody the title of young emperor. With his Tao heart refined and the phantom dissipated, Wang Wei left the pagoda alongside his head maid. As soon as he departed, the disciples erupted into chatter. Did anyone else see that shadow behind the young sect master? I don't know what it was, but it felt like I was being watched by a great emperor. I wanted to bow my head without thinking. Stop exaggerating. You've never seen a great emperor before. But you're right, I also felt the urge to kneel. Maybe this means our Tao opening sect will produce a great emperor this generation. Excitement filled the air. The disciples knew that if their sect produced a great emperor, their own futures would be blessed. Even the smallest handout from him could elevate them to unimaginable heights. However, not everyone shared in the joy. The 10 contemporary sacred sons, the most elite disciples of the Tao opening sect, stood pale-faced. While most disciples were clueless about the phantom's significance, these 10 understood exactly what it meant. It was proof of a young emperor. The moment they saw it, their hearts sank. As the most talented disciples of their generation, each of them had their own grand ambitions, each one aiming for the position of sect master. Although the sect called Wang Wei the young sect master, that title was purely honorary. According to the Tao opening sect's rules, a sect master's descendants could not directly inherit the position. They had to prove themselves by competing for the title of Sacred Son in a fair contest. The Sacred Sons had long acknowledged Wang Wei's talent. They knew the sect was grooming him for the heavenward battle. However, they had believed they still had time, that no matter how talented he was, he would need years to catch up to their level. They had planned to use that time to widen the gap, ensuring that Wang Wei would be too far behind to challenge them when the time came. But now, that strategy was worthless. A young emperor's talent was undeniable. It was only a matter of time before Wang Wei stood on equal footing with them. And when that day came, they would have to fight him for the title of Sacred Son. Of course, they were not without hope. Throughout history, there had been heaven-chosens who had challenged and defeated young emperors. The real question now was, among them, was there a heaven-chosen strong enough to do the same? Moreover, not all young emperors had successfully ascended. The path to the Tao was long and uncertain, nothing was set in stone. For the first time, the Sacred Sons truly felt the weight of Wang Wei's presence. High above the clouds, atop a floating mountain brimming with spiritual energy, stood the Sect Master Hall, the heart of the Tao opening sect. This sacred peak, Tianwei Peak, held the densest concentration of spiritual energy in the entire sect and served as the residence of the sect master, as well as the primary location for important gatherings. The Tao opening sect itself was an expansive collection of mountains stretching from the earth all the way into the heavens. The lower mountains, closest to the ground, contained the outer disciples and handymen. Spiritual energy in these regions was the weakest. The mountains of the outer disciples were connected to those of the inner disciples by massive, sky-reaching chains that allowed foot passage. However, the core disciples' mountains, as well as other critical sect locations, were only accessible through flight. This was why Wang Wei was often accompanied by his head maid, not only to assist in daily affairs, but also to transport him between different areas of the sect before he could fly on his own. Atop Tianwei Peak, within the Sect Master Hall, a grand meeting was taking place. Seated in designated positions, the great elders and elders of various halls formed a semicircle, with Sect Master Wang Tian presiding at the center. The atmosphere in the hall was charged with shock and excitement. Moments ago, they had witnessed the fifth pagoda trial, where Wang Wei's young emperor shadow had manifested once again. An elder, barely containing his enthusiasm, exclaimed, "This time, the young emperor shadow lasted longer than before." Another elder added, "This suggests the young sect master is inching closer to truly becoming a young emperor." A more reserved voice interjected, "It is not that simple. Becoming a young emperor is no easy feat." The great elder of the Enlightenment Hall, Longbow, spoke in a deep, measured tone. "Do you believe the young sect master will attain the title of young emperor after completing all 9 trials of the pagoda?" The question silenced the hall, prompting quiet contemplation. Many subtly glanced at Longbow. As the leader of the Enlightenment Hall, which oversaw the education and cultivation guidance of disciples, including the contemporary Sacred Sons, he wielded immense influence. More significantly, he was known to belong to the sectarian faction, a group that, while not openly opposed to Wang Wei's rise, viewed it with caution. His question was not without motive. After a brief pause, Great Elder Yan Mei of the Punishing Hall responded, "Unlikely. However, by the time he completes the trials, he will be just one step away. A small push is all he will need." Many in the hall nodded in agreement, but a few keen observers noted something subtle. Longbow exhaled softly in relief, though his expression remained impassive. However, those aware of the young master's plan, a grand event set to unfold 7 years later, exchanged brief glances. They suspected that the small push Yan Mei referred to was not a mere opportunity, but rather a carefully laid plan for Wang Wei's ascension. Of course, they kept their expressions neutral and their mouths sealed, ensuring that no secrets were revealed. The atmosphere lightened when Great Elder Li Jiang decided to shift the conversation. "Lately, I feel cultivation in the Saint Realm has become much easier. Am I the only one experiencing this?" Another elder chimed in, "I thought my talent had suddenly blossomed." "Me too. Count me in." Before long, the entire hall was abuzz with similar sentiments. Realizing that something significant might be occurring, all eyes turned towards Sect Master Wang Tian. A smile spread across Wang Tian's face as he announced, "The path of Supreme is loosening. There is hope for our future." Silence fell before it erupted into shock and excitement. Their generation had suffered immensely. To prepare the next generation for a true glorious era, Heavenly Tao had not only withheld the heaven mandate from their era, but had also severed the path of Supreme. Now, it seemed that time had passed. The seals restricting the Supreme Realm were weakening. The Supreme Realm, the stage where cultivators manifested their Dharma body, and attained a lifespan of at least 1,000,000 years. Which cultivator did not dream of reaching such heights? Great Elderly Jiang hesitantly asked, "Does this mean we can break through now?" Wang Tian shook his head. The seal has only just begun to lift. While breakthroughs are now possible, the chances remain low. Though slightly disappointed, the elders were filled with renewed hope. Even a slim chance was better than none. The great elder of the formation hall then inquired, "Sect Master, do you still intend to undergo mortal dust tempering before breaking into the Supreme Realm? Given your current foundation, it may be unnecessary." Wang Tian nodded. "I will go through with it. Strengthening my foundation will allow for a smoother cultivation process in the Supreme Realm and grant me greater battle power." Many elders nodded in agreement. Even for someone of Wang Tian's caliber, patience and preparation were key to reaching the peak of power. At that moment, Great Elder Yen Mei spoke up once more. "Sect Master, you should aim to be the first to break through. If successful, not only will the Tao opening sect's prestige soar, but there is a high likelihood of receiving merit from Heavenly Tao." Wang Tian's eyes brightened. He cared little for prestige, but merit, that was invaluable. Merit was the ultimate resource for cultivators. With enough merit, one could advance their cultivation instantly, enhance their talent, deepen their Tao comprehension, refine treasures and elixirs beyond their original limits. Even great emperors sought after merit, as it remained useful even at their level. Unfortunately, Heavenly Tao was notoriously stingy with merit. Most cultivators only received a meager amount upon entering the Saint Realm. To acquire more, one had to accomplish great deeds beneficial to the entire world. Yen Mei's reasoning was sound. The first cultivator to break through to the Supreme Realm would become a symbol of hope, proving to the world that the path was no longer severed. Furthermore, Heavenly Tao would likely reward such a person with merit to settle its own karmic debt, for having restricted the Supreme Path in the first place. Even Heavenly Tao itself could not escape the bindings of karma. Wang Tian clenched his fists, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Then I must be first."
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Sect Master Wang Tian ponders the meaning behind Great Elder Yen Mei's word. He realizes that she is probably right about receiving merit for being the first person to break through to Supreme. Wang Tian says to the other elders, "In that case, we need to properly monitor all the major sects in the world. Even the powerful and talented loose cultivator should not be missed. After all, we are not the only people who will notice this change." The elders nod in agreement, then they all look at a person in the corner. The person sits alone without speaking a word. He did not have any presence, any sense of existence. It is as if the person never existed in the world. The only time he is noticed is when you look directly at him. As soon as you look away, you will immediately forget his face, and all the memories about him. Only people with powerful cultivation level and keen perception can notice him, and that is only when he is not actively hiding his presence, otherwise only a few handful of people in this room would notice him. This person is known as Shadow. He is the person responsible for acquiring information, analysis, and assassination for the Tao opening sect. He is only loyal and responds to the sect master. In fact, every generation of the Tao opening sect master will cultivate their own spy agency and their own shadow at an early age. When they take over the position of sect master, the previous ruler will hand over the majority of the spy agency, and the shadow will change to the person trained by the current sect master. In that way, the foundation of the Tao opening sect will increase with each passing generation. Because of such rule, many of the contemporary sacred sons have their own information agency, and this is also the reason that Wang Wei has his own agency trained by the Wang family, and is currently his head maid. After everyone look at him, the shadow look at Wang Tian, and when he see that he nods his head, he says in a hoarse and illusory voice, "I will dispatch the shadow guard and monitors whether any saint is going to experience mortal dust or whether they are prepared to directly break through." After giving a positive answer, the shadow closes his eyes and refuses to say any other word. The elders did not find his action offensive, as they are used to his behavior after spending many years dealing with him. Afterward, the meeting continues until late at night, and then everyone disperses and returns to their own hall. After the meeting, Wang Tian leaves Tianwei Peak and returns to the Wang family's exclusive mountain. Since his lovely son was born, he no longer lives in the sect master hall, as the spiritual energy in there was too strong for his mortal son to live for too long. It's true that the concentration of spiritual energy is very beneficial to increasing talent and nourishing the body to set a good foundation, but too much spiritual energy is also very detrimental to weak cultivators, let alone mortal infants. After returning to his mansion, Wang Tian discovers that his father was standing there and waiting for him. He immediately rushes over and bows to his father and says, "Father, son is unfilial to make you wait for so long." Wang Tian's father, Wang Chong, waves his hand and leisurely responds, "Get up. How old are you? You do not have to keep these formalities, especially in private." Wang Tian smiles wryly. His father is a person who despises formality and scoffs at tradition. In other words, he is extremely unruly. "Where is Wei and Yu Yan?" he asks. "My lovely grandson was tired from the trial, and Yu Yan just fed him some pill to relieve spiritual and physical fatigue. He is probably deep in sleep by now." "That's fine if he is asleep. So father, what brings you out of the cottage?" Wang Chong looks at his son up and down, then proceeds, "You should have noticed the change in heaven and earth. Are you prepared to break through to the supreme realm?" "Yes, father, once the seal is further loosened, I will go experience mortal dust to further strengthen my foundation, then break through." "That's good that you are willing to strengthen your foundation." Wang Chong then looks at his son with a look of pity, then continues, "I know you have a lot of unwillingness in your heart because you did not have the chance to compete for the heaven mandate. Unfortunately, heaven is truly unreasonably unfair." Wang Tian sighs and mockingly answers, "It's just like Wei always say, fate is the greatest mockery for us cultivators. I did not tell you all of this just to listen to you lamenting your own misfortune. I come to remind you that you still have a chance to achieve your dream of competing for the heaven mandate. As long as Wei can prove the Tao, he could still provide you with another chance." After hearing his father's words, Wang Tian immediately understood his father's meaning, and said excitedly, "How come I forget this truth? As long as Wei becomes emperor, he can still wash off the karma in my body so that I can compete in the next generation's fight for the heaven mandate." Wang Tian is indeed excited. In the last generation, he was one if not the most powerful heaven chosen. He was born with the exquisite sword heart physique ranked 15, in the 3000 heaven physique list. He has practiced sword Tao to an extremely high realm, and overwhelmed the majority of his peers. Cultivators all over the world voted him as the person who is most likely to win the heaven mandate. Unfortunately, when he reached the peak in the saint realm, he learned that there will be no heaven will this generation. What was more tragic was the fact that even the path of supreme was also cut off and sealed. Their generation wailed in agony and screamed that heaven was unfair. According to the rule of heavenly Tao, no person from the previous generation can compete for the heaven mandate in the next generation. As such, the goals and dreams of many people were completely shattered. There is only one way to go around this rule: wash away your karma. In order to wash away karma, there are only two ways. One is to seal a person in bloodstones or time stones, and allow them to sleep for millions of years and live through countless generations. Then, they can wake up, free from karmic ties, and participate in the fight for the heaven's will. In fact, many sects have many heaven-chosens from the previous era that are currently still sealed and awaiting awakening, and the Tao opening sect is of no exception. The other way to wash away karma is to have a great emperor to directly take action. This method is direct and immediately effective. However, such a method will result in the emperor suffering from karmic backlash. As such, if an emperor is not powerful, or if you are not really close to them, they will not use such methods lightly. After taking a deep breath and calming himself down, Wang Tian says to his father, "Father, not just me, even you have a chance at a second attempt." Upon hearing this, Wang Chang's face remains calm and answers with a look of sadness, "It's true. Unfortunately, after my defeat to Yang Chen, no I mean Emperor Nine Sons, my Tao heart was affected and my will to fight was long lost. There is no future for me as an emperor. Furthermore, it won't be long before my lifespan will approach its end, and I have to be sealed with bloodstone, and become a foundation that protects the sect from future trouble." After Wang Chang's words, a profound sadness envelopes the room. Wang Tian knew that his father had suffered a great mental blow during his fight for heaven will 3 generations ago. Furthermore, his father's age was long past the limit of 1,000,000 years for the supreme realm. Of course, due to how powerful his cultivation method is, his lifespan was way longer than ordinary supreme realm powerhouse. However, he will have to face the issue of lifespan sooner or later. Suddenly an idea appears in Wang Tian's head and responds, "Father, as long as Wei succeed in sitting on the emperor throne, you could still walk on the path of immortality, or even better the path of Tao ancestor." After hearing his son mention the path of immortality, a look of yearning appears in Wang Chang's face, followed by a great deal of disdain. However, the idea of continuing in the path of Tao ancestor is quite appealing to him. This path, although not as powerful or influential as the path of emperor, has much better potential than the path of immortality. Wang Chang said to his son, "Okay. No need to think about these things for now. Wei still has a long way to go." After saying this, Wang Chang chatted with his son for a while before returning to his cottage. Wang Tian did notice that his father was in a much better mood when he left. He becomes more joyful at the fact that his word had a good effect on his father. Wang Tian knows that a cultivator's state of mind and Tao heart is of great importance to them, especially in the higher realms. Ever since his father has failed his competition for the heaven will, he has been quite reticent and lost a lot of his previous confidence. Things got better when Wang Wei was born, but the effect was also minimal. Now he has rekindled the fire of hope for his father, just like his father just did for him. After pondering for a while, Wang Tian ran home to reunite with his wife and son. Far away from the Tao opening sect, in the heaven-blessed domain, the Emperor Enlightening Academy. The myriad emperor world is divided into 5 continents. Each continent is further divided into countless domains. The Emperor Enlightening Academy is located southeast of the Tao opening sect. This academy is one of the most powerful forces in the world, second only to the Tao opening sect. In fact, when it comes to foundation, it might even surpass the Tao opening sect. As the name suggests, the Emperor Enlightening Academy is designed for the sole purpose of training great emperors. Throughout its long history, it has trained a total of 8 great emperors, only one short of the Tao opening sect. As a result of this, these 2 great powers have been competing for countless years. However, what sets the Emperor Enlightening Academy apart is the fact that their doors are open to any heaven-chosen, even if you already belong to another group or faction. Because of said philosophy, the Emperor Enlightening Academy has helped a great deal of emperors during their rise. So these emperors would more or less return the favor after their ascension. As such, despite the fact they have only truly trained 8 emperors, they have received the favor of countless emperors throughout their inception. Right now, a meeting between the teachers and headmaster of the academy is taking place. Unlike the Tao opening sect, which is located in the mountains, the Emperor Enlightening Academy is actually a gigantic city that covers the entire heaven bliss domain. The headmaster of the Emperor Enlightening Academy is actually an old man with long white hair, trim white beard, and sage-like temperament. He is dressed in all white ancient garments. All the teachers in the hall had a great deal of respect for him. This respect comes from not only his powerful cultivation, but also the fact that he is an educator, a sage that brings knowledge and wisdom to the masses. The headmaster, whose name is Bai Han, starts the meeting. He asks, "Have we found our target this time?" Another teacher responds, "After paying a substantial price to the Heaven Mystery Pavilion, we have determined that the target has been born in a lower plane, and has also located said plane. Should we send someone to pick him up?" After pondering for a while, Headmaster Bai Han responds, "No need for that for now. Send a true monarch teacher to secretly protect him. Growing up in the lower realm can temper him, and also prevents other sects from noticing him. Additionally, the teacher protecting him can be responsible for his first enlightenment, and set a solid foundation for him, and cultivate his feeling toward our Emperor Enlightening Academy. Headmaster, we also need to send him an identity token," reminds another teacher. "Yes, without an identity token, he will not be recognized by Heavenly Tao of the Myriad Emperor world, and will not be able to participate in the fight for Heaven will. According to the laws of Heaven, people not born in the Myriad Emperor world could not participate in the fight to prove the Tao, unless a very precious identity token is given. This is similar to the citizenship that Wang Wei received when he was born." Another teacher excitedly says, "I cannot believe that our Emperor Enlightening Academy is about to acquire a heaven chosen with the absolute chaos physique, the rank number 1 in the 3000 heaven physique list. We will finally nurture our 9th emperor and catch up to the Tao opening sect. Yes, this generation's heaven mandate will belong to us. I agree with this." Soon many teachers started to discuss their exciting future. Seeing that the majority of people in this room start to become arrogant and proud, Headmaster Bai Han frowns and says in disapproval tone, "Do not be proud and happy too quickly. Don't forget, this is a glorious time where the number 2 physique, heavy axe physique, and the number 3, 7 desire 6 emotion physique has appeared. Furthermore, there is still the anomaly that appears in the Tao opening sect. From the information we have received, the young sect master of the Tao opening sect has the posture of a young emperor. In the western White Tiger continent, there is a child born with the power of reincarnation. Many of the people with physique in the top 10 of the 3000 heaven physique have been born. This is not the ancient time, when being born with the top 3 physique is guaranteed to win the heaven mandate." After hearing the headmaster's word, the teachers in the room immediately calmed down. Cold sweat started falling from their backs. All of them have made the mistake of placing the cart before the horse. Their heaven chosen have not even won the heaven will, and they are already celebrating. After realizing their mistakes, they all soon reign in their arrogance. Another teacher reminds everyone, "Do not forget old Chu's divination, in this supreme era of resurgence, the impossible will become possible." Soon the teachers realize that their mindset has been wrong. This era will be a fierce competition for the emperor throne. Heaven chosen will be as many as dogs. The heaven chosens of this generation are both lucky and unlucky. Lucky because they will witness a grand era in which the brilliance of many geniuses will shine on a myriad of worlds. They are unlucky because if they are not worthy, then they can only be cannon fodder. The threshold for the title of heaven chosen will be raised to a very high standard. Many people who could be called heaven chosen in the past will appear extremely mediocre in this generation. After the teachers calm down, they return their focus on how to properly cultivate the absolute chaos physique. One teacher asks, "Headmaster, do we need to provide him with enough luck to reach purple gold and break through to the supernatural realm?" Headmaster Bai Han responds, "That is not necessary. As the person born with the absolute chaos physique in the lower plane, he is probably the son of destiny of that plane. He will naturally be able to acquire the necessary luck to reach the standard purple gold level on his own." The teacher nods in agreement with the headmaster. "Headmaster, do we allow him to participate in the Spirit Road 7 years later?" "No, the Spirit Road is not that important, he can just skip it." "Then sir, when will we bring him back from the lower realm?" After pondering for a while, the headmaster answers, "After most of the heaven chosen of this generation reach the supernatural realm, the academy will be formally open. We can bring him back then." Alright, now that most of the issues have been settled, let's discuss which true monarch teacher will be sent as a Dao protector. After hearing this, the room became quiet. Many people start making plans to acquire this position for their faction. Although the Emperor Enlightening Academy is a school, there are still factions that exist in it. Becoming the teacher of the absolute chaos physique essentially means the possibility of being the teacher of a future emperor. No one wants to give up such an opportunity. Few days have passed since Wang Wei passed the 5th trial. He is now preparing to enter the 6th one. While flying in the air accompanied by his head maid, Wang Wei asks her for the latest information that he needs to know and analyze. She responds, "According to the information we received, the Enlightening Emperor Academy has secretly been moving around lately." "Do you know the reason?" asks Wang Wei. "We do not know for sure, but there are rumors that they have found the absolute chaos physique, but we could not verify if this information is true or not. The Academy has even launched a massive cleanup after the news leak. Many of our hidden spies were killed." Wang Wei ponders for a while. The rumors are most likely true given how severe the Academy reacted after the news leak. He suddenly asks, "What about the other 2 top physiques?" "According to our information, the number 2 physique, the heavy axe body, is the crown prince of the Great Zhou imperial dynasty. As for the number 3 physique, the 7 emotion 6 desire body, we only know that it is a girl, and she was found in the eastern Azure Dragon continent. As for what force has acquired her, there is currently no information." Wang Wei smells the incoming storm from the whereabouts and actions of the number 2 and 3 physique. Usually, a sect will normally start to brag to the world about their heaven chosen as a way to form momentum for them. However, the Enlightening Emperor Academy and the power faction in the eastern Azure Dragon continent chose the opposite and became quite low-key. This is actually quite unusual. This can only mean that they are preparing for the right time, when all other heaven chosen's momentum reach a peak period, then use them as a stepping stone for their own people. After thinking about this, Wang Wei's sense of urgency rises quickly. He needs to advance his plans so that he will not become the stepping stone for someone else. After chatting with his handmaid for a while, Wang Wei soon reaches the place where the pagoda trial takes place. Then, without hesitation, he entered. In this trial, Wang Wei finds himself being a very powerful cultivator. He is also the sect master of one of the most powerful sects of the world. His every word can dictate the life of countless people. Under his leadership, his sect reached the most prosperous height since its creation. While everything seems to be going well for him, an enemy of Wang Wei sneak attacks him while he is leading the sect's disciples to a secret realm. The worst part about this is the fact his enemy did not kill him, but abolished his cultivation level, then shatters his Dao. After this incident, Wang Wei finds himself living a life of hell. He becomes a crippling beggar. He had no home to live, and had to beg in the street to live. When the winter's cold arrived, Wang Wei had to find throwaway clothes and stitch them together as a blanket to warm himself and prevent himself from freezing to death. When the autumn's rain washed away the world, a few temples had provided shelters to a group of beggars, and Wang Wei was lucky enough to be one of them. The worst part of this experience for Wang Wei was not the constant changing mood of Mother Nature, but the never-ending hunger and the constant humiliation. Every day, Wang Wei had to go forage for food in the city. Since he is a beggar, he lives in the slum, the poor area infested with crime. The people living in the slum barely had enough food to feed themselves, let alone help others. Once in a while, some good Samaritans would feel bad for Wang Wei and provide him with enough food to barely keep alive. On some good day, some rich merchant or nobles would pass by the slums and give the beggars some food. However, they usually do it with a look of arrogance in their face, and will usually throw the food in the ground and watch with pleasure as the beggars fight over such little food. In order to survive, Wang Wei is usually one of the beggars fighting for food. Due to the fact that he used to be a powerful cultivator, he is still much stronger than an ordinary person, let alone a malnourished beggar. In fact, the act of these nobles and rich merchants throwing food in the ground are actually quite benign. Usually, they will vent their anger on the beggars by severely beating and insulting them. They spit at them, throw rotten eggs and feces at them, or even directly murder them. Wang Wei has tried a few times to fight back. The result is always him being severely injured and almost dying. The nobles and merchants never suffer any consequences for their action. This situation becomes worse for Wang Wei, as some cultivators recognize him as the former sect master of the Dao opening sect. They all took pleasure humiliating one of the most powerful cultivators in the world. Things continue as such for many years until one season, a great famine envelopes the kingdom where Wang Wei is currently located. Due to the famine, the nobles hoard the majority of the food, while the rich merchants raise the price to make profit. The majority of the poor people in the slum starve to death, while the number of beggars drop exponentially. During this period, Wang Wei has not eaten any food for more than 2 weeks. The only reason that he has lasted for so long was due to his former powerful body. On a particular summer's night, Wang Wei lies on the floor with an excruciating pain in his stomach. His throat is dry and his vision becomes blurry. He realizes that he was about to die of starvation. Then a man appears before him. The man throws a piece of bread on the floor in front of Wang Wei, which immediately delighted him. However, his joy did not last long, as the man actually urinated on the bread, then looked at him with a mocking smile, and watched with an expectant joy for him to reach out and eat the piece of bread. Wang Wei looks at the bread, then swallows his saliva with a look of desire. Then, he raises his head and looks at the man with his blurred vision. Afterward, he closed his eyes and rested. His pride will never allow him to reach such low bottom. He would rather starve to death than eat such a disgusting thing to survive. Who was he? One of the most powerful cultivators in the world. The sect master of one of the most powerful sects in the world. How can he do such a thing as eating bread filled with urine? He would rather die than suffer such humiliation. Soon afterward, Wang Wei's wish was granted to him. He starved to death and was immediately exiled out of the pagoda. Wang Wei thought that his act of placing his pride over his life would be the key that allowed him to pass the trial. But in fact, after exiting the trial, he actually fails to pass the 6th trial. Wang Wei becomes momentarily shocked for his failure in this trial. Then, he ponders the reason for such failure. Obviously, he fails to recognize the lesson needed to learn to pass this trial. This was not according to his original design. Wang Wei returns to his home, while preparing to enter the pagoda the next day. The next trial proceeded exactly like the previous one. Upon reaching the stage of malnourishment, famine, and dehydration, the same choice is once again given to him: eat the urinated piece of bread. Wang Wei realizes that this trial's purpose is to teach him a lesson about humbleness, about giving up pride and arrogance, especially when one is weak and helpless. Despite knowing all of these, Wang Wei still could not lower himself to eat that piece of bread. He always fails this trial when he reaches that part. Soon, more than 2 months have passed. Wang Wei was still stuck in the 6th pagoda trial. He has tried a total of 9 times, each has resulted in failure. As a result of this, many disciples including Li Jun have already started the 7th trial. Many people in the sect are wondering if the young sect master has reached his limit. At Qianwei Peak, a meeting of the elders was taking place. Their discussion involves Wang Wei and his inability to pass the 6th pagoda trial. The great elder of the formation hall, who has a great relationship with Wang Wei, asks, "Sect master, should we do something to help the young sect master?" Upon hearing this, many people direct their gaze toward Wang Tian, who shakes his head in disapproval and responds, "There is no need to do this. This trial is designed to temper his Dao heart. It will not do him any good for us to help him." Great Elder Yan Mei asks, "At least, we can shut down the vision formation that allows people outside the pagoda to watch the trial." The act of eating urinated bread is a great insult to the prestige of the young master, especially in the future if he manages to prove the Dao. The room immediately becomes quiet after hearing Great Elder Yan Mei's words. Many people are in fact worrying about this. What impact will this trial have on the image of a future great emperor? What is a great emperor? A being that has escaped the shackles of time, life and death. A manifestation of the great Tao itself. How can such a being be humiliated? Sect Master Wang Tian looks at everybody present in the meeting, then answers, this is exactly the purpose of designing this trial. To teach Wei that no matter what height he reaches in the future, never forget his origin even if he was the humblest of beggar. When he reaches such an unimaginable realm, his deeds and past will forever be glorified by future generations. However, before reaching such height, his pride and arrogance only shows his insignificant state of mind, his ignorance, and the fact that he is not yet worthy to be bathed in the light of true glory. While the meeting is taking place in the Wang family exclusive mountain, Wang Wei, who has been in a terrible mood the past 2 months, was invited into a room by his mother Yuyan. Upon entering the room, Yuyan watches her disheveled son with distress. She can easily notice the difference from 2 months ago. His eyes are bloodshot, signifying the fact that he has not had enough sleep in the past few months. His clothes are no longer clean and tidy. His eyes, who once were full of wisdom, maturity, and confidence, are now full of doubt and confusion. Yuyan watches his son dotingly and wishes she could just go over and tell him that this trial is not necessary. Even without it, he could still accomplish great things in life. However, she knows better that this is not the time to be soft. She said, Wei, your father is in a meeting with the elders right now. I'm worried that someone will use this failure to attack you. Come and watch so you could receive the information beforehand and be prepared for an attack. Then, she takes out a mirror showing the scene of the meeting in Tianwei Peak. Wang Wei sits next to his mother and watches the elders argue about how to deal with his recent failure in the pagoda trial. Then, he listens to his father's awe-inspiring speech about the relationship between humility and glory. Then, something dawns on him. Where does this unfounded pride come from? It's true that he is born with great wealth and good fortune. Even in his past life, he was considered a second-generation rich young master. However, his birthrights have no direct indication for his future achievement, especially in this world of cultivation. Even the most humble beggar can one day sit in the throne of emperor overlooking myriad beings. Emperor One Eye is a perfect example of this. He was born a slave of a family in the western White Tiger continent. However, one day, the family he served was brutally massacred. As a poor mortal, he was forced to beg in order to survive. In one of his encounters during that period of his life, some random rich noble stabbed one of his eyes, permanently blinding it. However, fate was in favor of such a lowly beggar. After a lucky encounter, he started on the path of cultivation. With his hard work and talent, he beat all the heaven chosen from powerful factions and lineage and proved the Tao. In fact, throughout his life, this emperor never healed his blind eye even when he became a great emperor. As a matter of fact, he even took the name One Eye after proving the Tao to remind him of his humble origin. So, what is Wang Wei's so-called pride worth compared to the life of Emperor One Eye? If someone asked him to throw away his pride, to be lower than a beggar, to be a slave in exchange for 100% guarantee to become a supreme emperor, would he accept it? Of course he would. The starting point of someone is not something that can determine the limits of their achievement. Humbleness and humility are not disadvantages or vices, no, they are in fact great virtues. Virtues that teach people to never give up no matter the circumstances. After realizing this, Wang Wei's eyes shine like the first sunlight that illuminated the world. The doubt and confusions were immediately swept away. He suddenly turns toward his mother and says, Mom, I'll be back tonight for dinner. Then he rushes outside where his head maid has been waiting for him. Soon, they both headed toward the area of the pagoda trial. Yuyan watches her son leave with a gentle smile on her face. Soon after Wang Wei's departure, Wang Tian appears beside his wife and says with excitement, It seems that our little play works much better than expected. Why do you and the elders have to go through all that trouble? Would it not be better to just tell him all of this? Wei is an extremely intelligent kid. If we were to tell these things directly, it would not have such a good effect. Only when he realizes it by himself can he learn something and sublimates his state of mind. The only trouble we had with this plan is the fact that Wei might realize that this is just a play directed toward him. Fortunately, his state has not been ideal the past 2 months. After leaving his home, Wang Wei directly enters the pagoda for his 10th time for the 6th trial of the pagoda. This time around, the story follows the same trajectory. After his fall, Wang Wei still becomes a beggar. However, this time, his state of mind was different. He has accepted the humility and humbleness of his life. He tries every means for survival, while trying to find a chance to change his life. When the arrogant man handed him the piece of bread filled with urine, he picked it up without hesitation and ate it. He did show any emotion such as struggle, suffering, or humiliation, just the desire to survive, and the hope of a better tomorrow. And things did eventually get better for Wang Wei. After managing to barely survive the famine, one of his former loyal advisors from the sect tracked him down, and provided him with a pill that could heal his crippled body at the cost of losing all his previous cultivation. He did not mind all of these. He again starts from scratch and only took a few years to heal his shattered Tao and reach a height beyond his previous peak. Afterward, he singularly slaughters all his enemies and the people who had betrayed him. He easily retook control over the Tao opening sect and led it to an even more prosperous era. Then, he went back to the slum where he used to live and rewarded the few people who helped him during those times. The only thing he did not do was to humiliate or kill the people who did him wrong during his days as a beggar. In fact, he did not even hide the fact. As such, the story of the rise of the sect master of the Tao opening sect from an humble beggar to a supreme being spread all over the world as a form of motivation, a way to encourage people that humble origin does mean you could not succeed in life. Soon afterward, Wang Wei exited the pagoda with the message that he had passed the 6th trial. After this trial, Wang Wei had learned a great deal of things about himself. Despite his humble appearance, Wang Wei discovers that he had a great deal of arrogance and pride hidden deep in his bones. Unlike people who display their arrogance on their face and action, Wang Wei's arrogance is displayed in the form of alienating ordinary people or people who he believed did not have the status or strength to be on the same level as him. For example, Wang Wei might be talking to someone with polite words and a comforting smile, but in fact, he would never be friends or associate with someone of lower status than himself unless he has a purpose for doing so. The politeness he displayed when conversing with other people is due to his education. His polite and comforting smile is just a way to display his charm and increase his charisma, to develop a positive image to the world. Unfortunately, there is deep pride or hubris hidden behind the polite smile. An arrogance stems from the belief that one day, he will become a powerful being that forces all myriad things to bow down to him. If it was not for this pagoda trial, Wang Wei might spend the rest of his life without being aware of such excessive pride, which would in turn cause him a great deal of danger if used by his enemies one day. The impact of Wang Wei spending so much time passing the 6th trial did not immediately go away. Disciples in the sect are constantly discussing whether the young sect master had reached his limits. Wang Wei is aware that someone might be secretly spreading rumors to discredit him. So he immediately took action to change the narrative. How does he do that? Simple, he immediately enters the 7th trial and tries to be the first to pass it despite his 2 months late start. The 7th trial could be said to be simple, yet at the same time, the most difficult. This trial involves religion and brainwashing. In this world, there are many powerful religion and cult who rely on people's belief as a way to cultivate. As a result of these religions' desire for people to devote their entire life and belief to them, they develop techniques that brainwash people and forcibly distort their minds, ideology, memories, and even personality. The most famous of which was Buddhism. In the myriad emperor world, Buddhism once had a glorious era. Many great Buddha emperors were born in different Buddhist sects throughout the world. Their emperor sculpture, the past, present, and future Buddha, was renowned as one of the most powerful scripture in the world. Unfortunately, something happened that changed the very nature of every Buddhist. Instead of pursuing enlightenment, the Buddhist sects started to gather incense through believers. They brainwashed both ordinary people and cultivators as a way to quickly cultivate. Not much record is left in the Tao opening sect from that time period. To be more precise, someone or something not only wiped out all the Buddhist sects in the world, but even the majority of records were erased. The only thing related to Buddhism in this world that still remains is the 6 forbidden lands, the Western Pure Bliss land. Forbidden lands, as the name implies, are places of extreme danger in the myriad emperor world that have existed for countless number of years, yet still remain mysteries. The only requirement for a place to be labeled as forbidden land is to have at least one emperor either die or severely wounded while visiting such places. A great emperor being that has achieved immortality actually died in these forbidden land. The water in this world is indeed quite deep. Among the 6 forbidden land, the Western Pure Bliss land is one of the most dangerous one. According to a brief introduction that Wang Wei read in the library, there have been many emperors who have visited the Western Pure Bliss land. Many emperors, after proving the Tao, have visited those forbidden land in an attempt to destroy them. Why take all these risks and trouble? Of course, for glory and recognition. The myriad emperor world has cultivated a great number of emperors. Among them, there is of course a distinction between powerful emperors and weak emperors. One of the ways that emperors use to distinguish themselves is to destroy or erase a forbidden land. According to records, there have been a total of 18 forbidden lands, now only 6 remain. Some forbidden lands are dated before the first ever emperor heaven opening emperor was born in this world. The Western Pure Bliss land has affected a large number of emperors. Once they enter the core area, there are only 3 outcomes that await them upon exiting: death, severe injury, or being brainwashed into believing in the great Maitreya Mother Buddha. Once their belief has changed, the Tao that these emperors cultivated will be forcibly rewritten to contain Buddhist's nature or origin. When Wang Wei learned about this fact, he was completely horrified. What kind of being would be able to manipulate the Tao of an emperor? Unless he is more powerful than him or her. After reading about this information in the library, he directly went and asked his father about it. However, unlike before, Wang Wei's father refused to tell his son any information. In fact, according to his father's word, even he the sect master was not qualified to know certain things or truth, let alone his mortal son. During that time, Wang Wei spent a great deal of sleepless night worrying about his future. It was then that Wang Wei realized that being an emperor might not be the end of the path of cultivation, but just another beginning. If Wang Wei wanted to achieve the realm of free and unfettered, the realm of the great emperor was probably far from enough to accomplish that. Maybe, somewhere out there in the vast universe, in the limitless chaos, a great emperor was nothing but a bigger and from the truly powerful cultivators. After having these thoughts, Wang Wei had forced himself to calm down and place all these memories and thoughts in a deep corner of his mind. After all, he was not even an emperor yet. Hell, he was not even a cultivator yet. How can he ponder and stimulate the greatness and insignificance of an emperor? Despite all of the initial fear, Wang Wei vowed that he would one day unveil the secret and mysteries of all of these forbidden lands. Wang Wei enters the pagoda and finds himself in an empty room with one meditating cushion on it. He sits cross-legged on top of it. As soon as he sits down, a grand and ethereal murmur appears in his mind. The murmur was at first very blurry, but soon, Wang Wei started to understand its meaning. The voice preaches about this majestic and otherworldly power. He claims that if Wang Wei believes in it, it would grant him wealth, power, and even eternal life. The words of the ethereal voice seem to contain a deep power of seduction. Each word seems to be able to leave an imprint on the core of people's soul. Wang Wei tries to ignore the voice with no avail, then he tries to think about different things or memories as a form of distraction. But that tactic also fails. No matter what action he takes, the only thing left riveting in his mind is the promise and seduction of that voice. After agonizing and fighting against the ethereal voice for 3 hours, Wang Wei finds himself believing that he is the devout believer of the Almighty One beyond fate. Only by believing in it can he truly achieve his dreams and goals of being an emperor and reaching the peak of life. After becoming a devout believer, someone opens the door of the secret room. He then leads Wang Wei to meet the Pope of the religion, who proclaims to him that a sacrifice is required of him by the Almighty One beyond fate. Wang Wei without a shred of hesitation takes a knife, cuts a hole on his chest, then plunges his hand into his chest cavity and rips out his heart, and hands it to the Pope. During his action there was no pause, no hesitation, no screaming in agony. Only a look of yearning and devotion to the supreme God that controls the fate of all human beings. The Pope nods in approval, and takes the heart away from Wang Wei's hand. Soon afterward, Wang Wei dropped dead on the floor, and was immediately exiled from the pagoda due to his failure of the 7th trial. After leaving the trial, Wang Wei had a look of horror in his face. It took him a few minutes to recover a proper mindset, then he set out back home with his head made. Wang Wei spends the whole night thinking about how to properly pass this test. The solution he comes up with is to use his strong will to resist. The next day, he places his idea into practice. He tries to resist the invasion of the ethereal voice with his strong will. Although, this time, he lasted more than 12 hours before he surrendered, Wang Wei knows that this is not the best way to go forward, especially now that he was 2 months behind the other disciples. Resisting the sweet seduction of the Almighty One beyond fate with a strong will is a very slow process. Unfortunately, time was not on Wang Wei's side. Wang Wei had to try his backup plan, fighting belief with belief. Since the Almighty One beyond fate wants him to believe in him, then why not install into himself a strong belief and fight against the belief of the Almighty One beyond fate? That way, by fighting the invasion of the other party, Wang Wei can rapidly strengthen his own belief until it turns into a creed or instinct that he will follow his whole life. As for what belief to follow? Simple, the belief that he will one day become free and unfettered. One day, he will swim in the river of fate, go fishing in the river of time, flirt with the goddess of death, bathe in the spring of life from the eternal tree. With this mindset, Wang Wei once again enters the pagoda for the 7th trial. As soon as he sat on the cushion, the seduction and invasion began. Wang Wei immediately starts to hypnotize himself into believing that one day, he will be a supreme being far greater than this Almighty One beyond fate. No matter how seductive this voice is, no matter what great things he promises, no matter what benefit he offers, Wang Wei remains blind to it. Wang Wei constantly installs the idea on his mind that by having an unwavering belief on himself, one day he could achieve his goals and dreams. All he needs to do is slowly and methodically walk on his own predetermined or pre-established path. He does not need the spiritual soothing or reliance of a higher being. His strong and powerful determination will be his spiritual reliance and nothing else. Despite all of this, it took him a total of 15 days before he reached the standard to pass this trial, or at least the first part of it. The second part of the trial involves him reading numerous cultivation techniques and scriptures. Then Wang Wei had to distinguish which one is secretly tempered with to influence the mind. The cultivation world can be quite dark and full of malice. Some poor bastard might think that he is lucky by discovering a peerless cultivation sutra, later to discover that this sutra is tempered it by a more powerful cultivator to turn people into their slave, or make them their faithful and devout believer, or to make it easier to take over their body after raising them like fat sheep to be slaughtered. The 7th trial of the pagoda is designed and modified by the elders to train the disciples on how to recognize these default cultivation sutras and techniques. Some sutras or scriptures even outline a perfect Tao for cultivators to cultivate. They do not need to have any enlightenment, just cultivate the sutra, and they can cultivate the law and Tao. However, the majority of sutra like these are just bait to cultivate the perfect cauldron for absorption or body possession. It is true that it is necessary for cultivators to have lucky encounters to grow powerful during their cultivation journey. This is in fact a manifestation of their own chi luck. However, if a cultivator is not careful, it will be quite easy to be calculated by other cultivators. In fact, sometimes, even Heavenly Tao will calculate certain cultivators. Although Heavenly Tao is nothing but an emotionless program, it is in its right to check and balance certain cultivators that he deemed a threat to the world. Heavenly Tao itself cannot directly attack such people, but he can provoke them in a roundabout way, such as increasing the strength of heavenly tribulation, or plot against through lucky encounters. Wang Wei spends more than 10 days before passing the 7th trial. And just like he had planned, he is still the first to pass it. As soon as he passed the trial, the voices of dissonance in the sect were completely gone. The people that are secretly making trouble became silent. Wang Wei took this opportunity to increase his prestige in the sect. In only a few days, only positive news about him could be heard from the mouth of the sect's disciples. The storm of the 7th trial did not last long, as the disciples partook in the 8th trial. This trial could be considered one of the easiest for Wang Wei, because this trial involves arrogance, conceit, and how to deal with failure. In this trial, Wang Wei finds himself invincible among his peers. No matter what heaven chosen he fights against, he will always end up the victor. As time passes, Wang Wei begins to grow a heart of invincibility. He has the confidence that no matter who he faces, he will win in the end. As his arrogance and conceit grow with time, his effort in cultivation starts to lag behind his peers. Then one day, he faces his first defeat, and it is against an opponent that he had previously won against numerous times. This defeat provides him with a severe blow to his self-esteem. If it were the other disciples, maybe they would be devastated, then proceed to enter a state of self-blame, lack of confidence, or even severe depression. But that did not apply to Wang Wei. To him who have lived 2 lives, he had long learned that one failure does not define who he is as a person, or what can he achieve in the future. In fact, most people spend the majority of their life experiencing one failure after another. However, as long as they succeed the one time that matters, then they can be set for life. Once someone succeeds, the people around him will not care about all his countless other failures, but focus on the one success. They magnify and glorify that one and only success. Of course, succeeding once does not mean that your path is over, and you can enjoy life without an ounce of care from now on. No, it is the opposite. Once you succeed, you have to reanalyze all past failures and summarize the reason for the one success, then proceed to use the same or better method/formula to continue to succeed. With this mindset, Wang Wei soon realizes that the reason for his failure this time is due to the fact that he becomes conceited after succeeding so often. After being invincible, he did not put as much effort as he did before having such overwhelming strength. He has started to believe that no one would forever be his equal, as such, there is no need to put in so much effort. While the sin of sloth slowly devours him, his competitors did not slack off for even one day. They were not discouraged from the abundance of failures when facing Wang Wei. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They work harder than they did before, they put in 100 times more effort than previously. And eventually, they succeed in defeating a foe that at a certain point of time, they had deemed undefeatable. Wang Wei learns from the effort and spirit of his competitors. Although his heart of invincibility is shattered, he did not mind. He could slowly rebuild it and make it even stronger than before. Wang Wei did not take long to pass the test of the 8th trial after getting over his failure or defeat. The purpose of this trial is to teach disciples the values of constant hard work and the mindset needed when encountering major failures in life. In this world, cultivating is like a rapidly moving speed train on an endless track. If you slow down even a little bit, other trains might surpass you no matter how far ahead you think you are. Only by constantly moving forward that you have a slight chance of always keeping an advantage. What is even worse about this speeding train race is the fact that not everyone has the same starting line. As such, if you are not constantly improving and moving forward, no one knows the outcome of the race. After exiting the 8th pagoda trial, Wang Wei starts to ponder about the meaning of a heart of invincibility. In his opinion, no one can truly reach the state of invincibility. Some cultivators might spend their entire life without losing a single battle. Are they invincible? In Wang Wei's mind, the answer is no. The cultivation world is very hierarchical. So what if you are invincible in the supernatural realm? Can you beat someone in the shattered void realm, or the saint realm? The answer is no. The only reason a person can claim to be invincible is if he spends his entire cultivating career without fighting someone of too much higher cultivation level than him. As such, the so-called heart of invincibility is nothing but the self-aggrandizing of some arrogant idiot who lives in a false reality. Wang Wei did not want such a heart of invincibility. In fact, despite Wang Wei's disdain, he knows that such a thing as heart of invincibility is actually very useful to cultivators. It can increase the confidence of a cultivator in battle, creating a momentum that weakens enemies. Furthermore, anyone who cultivates a heart of invincibility will be acknowledged by heavenly Tao and increase their chi luck. If Tao heart increases a cultivator's chance of breaking through higher realm, then a heart of invincibility increases their combat power. To Wang Wei, the so-called heart of invincibility is too fragile. All it takes is one defeat or self-doubt, then it will shatter. Although Wang Wei has a great deal of confidence in himself, it is not to the point in which he believes that he will never lose a battle or experience failure. As such, he concludes that the path of invincibility is not for him. Despite all of this conclusion did not have any effect on him. The reason is because he has a strong belief, a belief that no matter what misfortune he encounters, no matter what battle he fights, he will have the last laugh. He will be the last man standing. He might not win the first few battles, but when it comes to the ones that truly matter, he will be the final victor. This belief is of a greater significance and value to him than any precarious heart of invincibility. After setting his mindset in the right direction, Wang Wei begins to prepare for the final trial. He knows that the final trial is actually quite horrible even according to his standard. As far as he is concerned, there is probably no actual way to pass this trial. Wang Wei spends a total of 10 days of rest to prepare for the 9th and final trial of the pagoda. With a strong and positive mindset, he sets out and enters the pagoda for the last trial. In this trial, Wang Wei lives a joyous ordinary life. He had a family that loved him, an abundance of wealth that allowed him to enjoy life as much as possible, fulfilling a job as government official who is loved by the common people, and a healthy body without any major disease. He did not participate in things like drugs, alcohol, or prostitution. Wang Wei could be considered quite the responsible and filial son. The only major event expected to occur in his life is the day when he chooses a bride and gets married. Unfortunately for him, he did not live for that long. On a certain cloudy day, Wang Wei had the day off from the office. While taking a walk in the garden with his mother and father, suddenly the heaven trembles. Wang Wei and his family hold each other as a form of support. Then, they raise their heads and look into the sky. What they say would leave an everlasting memory or trauma deep into their soul for as long as they exist. When Wang Wei looks in the sky, he sees a gigantic hand descending from the heavens heading toward him. His first reaction is that his idea is absurd, but as the massive hand starts to somehow enlarge itself, he realizes that his first assumption is actually quite right. In fact, the hand is not enlarging itself, but as it approaches him, all Wang Wei could see is the palm of the hand, which is quite massive in proportion to his size. As the hand approaches, Wang Wei finds himself incapable of talking, moving, or defending himself. Even his thinking process becomes increasingly slow and sluggish. The air or atmosphere around Wang Wei becomes solidified, which results in a heavy pressure both physically and spiritually to the people around. It is often said that when a person comes face to face with death, they will see all the memories or significant moments in their history flashing through their mind. However, this did not apply to Wang Wei at this moment. All he could think about before his untimely demise is how powerless he is, followed by insurmountable anger. Then he left the mortal coil with regret and endless fear. After his death, Wang Wei did not immediately exit the pagoda. This time, the setting of the trial is different. After the first death, the participants will find themselves rebirthed to a younger version of themselves at around 15 years old with all the memories of the previous life intact. Their mission for this trial is to ensure their survival from that gigantic hand. On his second attempt, Wang Wei decides to follow the path of cultivation in order to fight the powerful being. In just a few decades, Wang Wei reaches the peak of cultivation and becomes one of the 9 giants of the cultivating world. On a fateful night, Wang Wei stands upright on top of a deserted mountain. He is waiting for the moment that will forever change his destiny. As expected, a gigantic hand tears apart the sky and heads toward him. Wang Wei awaits his enemy with a smile and endless fighting intent. Unfortunately, something out of his expectation happens. 2 unexpected people appear next to him. They are his parents. It was at this moment that Wang Wei realizes that this powerful being did not only want to annihilate him, but wishes to emotionally torture him. It wants Wang Wei to watch with despair as the people he cares about die in front of him, while he remains absolutely helpless. Wang Wei screams in anger towards heaven. His scream is so loud and powerful that it echoes throughout the entire world. He rushes toward the still descending powerful hand to stop it. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he expected. Wang Wei soon discovers that he is not powerful enough to stop the almighty hand, or should say the wrath of heaven, as Wang Wei believes that no person or cultivator could be so powerful. Despite his fleeting thoughts, Wang Wei's situation is not looking good right about now. Despite the fact that he did not immediately disintegrate like his first life, his attempt at stopping the hand did not yield any result. All his attacks were literally useless as they disappeared before even touching the hand. As for Wang Wei himself, he manages to create a barrier around him with all his cultivation level. However, this method is only a stopgap measure. With the passing of time, the barrier around Wang Wei begins to crack. However, Wang Wei still insists on fighting even to his last breath. However, anguish soon envelopes him. Wang Wei watches as his parents, who were still located on the ground, slowly float in the air in front of the big hand. Then they slowly disintegrate into sand-sized particles and fly away with the wind. Then, Wang Wei screams aloud again, this time not out of anger but absolute despair. This burst in emotions dramatically increased his power. His barrier that was full of crack and on the verge of being destroyed slowly starts to heal and become stronger. With great anger and this powerful barrier, Wang Wei rushes straight toward the big hand and has a direct confrontation with it. Unlike last time, Wang Wei was not directly defeated or blasted off. Instead, he had a direct clash with the big hand. For a brief moment, Wang Wei had a standoff with the wrath of heaven. He manages to stand his ground in the face of such powerful force. Although this confrontation only lasted a brief moment before Wang Wei had to experience the eternal silence known as death, this brief moment meant a great deal to him, and had a significant impact. This brief moment of confrontation represents hope for Wang Wei. Hope that one day he will be able to defeat this formidable foe. Hope that one day he will not have to watch helplessly as his loved ones are killed. Although this hope or chance is actually quite minuscule, although Wang Wei will have to experience countless pain and suffering, although he will have to experience numerous death and resurrections, he did not mind. Because a slight hope is better than none at all. Unfortunately for Wang Wei, he did not know that this mode of thinking was actually the beginning of his endless despair. After his second attempt, Wang Wei took a few days to rest his spirit and think about how to go forward from now. When he designed the pagoda, he did not have any direct plan for the final trial. He only told the elders that the theme of the trial should be difficult and involve the theme of despair. As for the details and everything else, he did not participate in it. As the trial is used to help the participants, knowing everything is quite detrimental. After a few days of rest, Wang Wei once again enters the pagoda for the 9th trial. In his third attempt, Wang Wei follows the same path as he did in the 5th trial. He becomes a devil that cultivates the Tao of Devour. By swallowing the blood, flesh, and soul of countless cultivators, Wang Wei's cultivation soon reaches a realm incomparable to his second attempt. As for his parents, he hides them in a place where space is chaotic and teleportation is impossible, then awaits his opponent in the same deserted mountain from the previous attempt. When the fateful moment once again arrives, an extremely large hand descends from the heaven toward Wang Wei. Compared to it, Wang Wei is no more than an ant that can be accidentally trampled on. However, this time, things didn't go as previously. The hand did not attack Wang Wei directly, instead, it moved toward the place where his parents were located and hiding. Wang Wei became terrified when he noticed that. With rage and fury on his face, he turns into a 3,000 meters giant and flies toward the direction of the hand. As soon as he flies, countless sonic booms follow a few seconds afterward. The wind from the aftershock of Wang Wei's flying speed destroys anything and everything from his path. Houses made of different wooden materials collapse, the blowing wind cut many people into many pieces. And some unlucky people who were directly in the same path, as the giant Wang Wei directly exploded with blood scattered everywhere. In the path of Wang Wei, all that were left are destruction and death. Many people die from the falling debris of the houses. Many different severed limbs could be found randomly distributed in the ground. Additionally, a blood path thousands of meters long could be observed from a high point of view. This path leads directly toward the direction of Wang Wei's parents. Wang Wei flies with utmost rage toward his parents. He did not expect that this big hand would actually play rogue and directly attack his parents. Unfortunately for him, no matter how fast he flies, no matter how many innocent casualties he causes, he did not reach his parents in time. The big hand directly annihilated them, then proceeded to deal with Wang Wei. When Wang Wei reached the big hand, he immediately had a direct confrontation with it. He uses all his magic power, and with his powerful physical body, he throws a punch toward the big hand. With this powerful punch, the space around Wang Wei shatters. Cracks start to appear between heaven and earth. This punch contains Wang Wei's will for destruction and his endless anger. This single punch could destroy millions of lives, it could sink an entire continent as big as North America, it could offset the laws of gravitational pull. However, despite how powerful this punch was, it had a very limited effect. Upon receiving the punch, the big hand trembles slightly and stops for a few seconds. Then it proceeds toward Wang Wei to continue his mission of annihilations. Wang Wei did not become discouraged because of the minimal effect of his punch. If one punch did not work, then 10 will, or 100 or 1,000 punches. Boom. 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 Terrible sounds of trembling echoed throughout the world. All living beings could see a 3,000 meters giant constantly punching a gigantic hand. With each punch, a terrible sound of explosion could be heard, followed by the slight tremor of the ground. The entire world shook with each punch. At this moment, the sky is no longer the peaceful and ethereal blue, but full of cracks and violent energy that will destroy anyone who comes in contact with it. In the sky, sweat start to flow down Wang Wei's face. With the increasing number of punches, his stamina has started to decrease. Furthermore, the magic power in his body is about to run out, and yet, there is no sign of injury or even stopping from the big hand. Wang Wei immediately understands that he will probably not succeed in this trial, and the only thing that awaits him is death. Despite all of this, he did not give up. Every second he lives longer, he can still gather more information for the next attempt. Unfortunately, he did not last very long. The moment Wang Wei's stamina ran out, the power of the big hand dramatically increased and pats him. This time around, Wang Wei did not turn into tiny particles and scatter with the wind. This time, death becomes painful. When the big hand hit him, his skin burned, all the muscles in his body were cut into many pieces, and all his 206 bones were crushed into fine powder. His internal organs, including his brain, were liquefied into smoothie. Despite all of these, Wang Wei did not immediately die. His powerful body, or to be precise, what remains of it, allows him to still remain sober despite his severe injuries. Wang Wei looks at his mutilated body and groans. This kind of pain is nothing to him, who had suffered the torture of the 18 level of hell. However, what follows provided him a great deal of pain. A splitting headache suddenly attacked him. He felt as if a part of him was suddenly torn apart. From his experience, he knows that this is the pain from directly attacking the soul. As he inspected his body, Wang Wei knew that this pain would last for a long while before putting him out of his misery. Wang Wei also guessed that this big hand probably did this on purpose to make him suffer as much as possible before killing him. Knowing this, Wang Wei refused to give the wrath of heaven the satisfaction of watching him squirmed in agony. This big hand would probably like it better if he begs for forgiveness and grovels at its feet. However, Wang Wei refuses to admit defeat. He uses the last bit of strength left on him to directly destroy his soul and commit suicide. In his third attempt, Wang Wei still believes that by having a powerful enough cultivation, he would become victorious against the wrath of heaven. As such, he travels throughout the whole world and learns all the cultivation scriptures and techniques that he could. Then, he creates a supreme scripture that allows him to reach an unimaginable height in cultivation level. As for his parents, he did not hide them or try to protect them like last time. Instead, he allows them to go on the path of cultivation themselves. He creates a cultivation technique that provides them with heaven-defying defense and healing abilities. As long as they have a single breath left, as long as a single drop of blood is left, they can heal and rejuvenate both their bodies and soul. They were almost immortal and unkillable. This technique was indeed quite terrible and heaven-defying. The only reason that Wang Wei can so easily create it is due to the fact that the pagoda trial is an illusory world where anything is possible. However, despite his best effort, some things are inevitable, they are destined to happen. Wang Wei still fails to stop the gigantic hand, or the wrath of heaven. Although in this round, he still lasted a little longer than previous ones, the gigantic hand still kills him and his family. His developed unkillable cultivation technique only prolonged the inevitable demise of his parents and further added to their suffering before their death. However, Wang Wei did not regret his choice. The wrath of heaven was determined to involve his parents in their fight, and unfortunately, there is nothing he could do to stop it. However, his will and determination did not waver for even a second. As long as he has a single breath, he will continue to fight it. This determination soon became the despair of our young protagonist. The cycle of the seasons from autumn to summer is manifestation of samsara, as it indicates that all living beings live life in an endless cycle of suffering from one reincarnation to another, without being able to escape. It is also a manifestation of the passing of time, the bringer of wisdom to all life through age, suffering, and repeating mistakes. As such, 2 years passed by, and Wang Wei was still stuck in the 9th pagoda trial. Throughout the past 2 years, Wang Wei had many attempts at the pagoda 999 to be exact. All of them ended in failures. He had to watch his family and loved one die one by one more than 9,000 times. And he himself had to experience such a number of deaths. Death was not a particularly enjoyable experience. In this trial, there is no such thing as reincarnation. As such, death is the end, the finale. There is no afterlife, no kingdom of God, no punishment from hell, only an eternal silence and absolute darkness. In this silent darkness, the only functioning thing is the mind, left wondering about everything and nothing. There is no concept of time and space. There is no matter to interact with, no living being to converse with. Only your mind, thoughts, and memories are left. All the ideas and thoughts you ever had during your life, no matter how good or evil. You can precisely inspect each of them to the last detail. In this bleak scenario, a person starts to explore and judge themselves. Their concept of morality, are they good or evil based on their own thoughts, not action? The way people view them, the impact that they think they have on others, their socio-political views, etc. Additionally, the people they have interacted with throughout their lives or the people they actually care about can only exist only in memories. The only good thing about this silent darkness is the fact that it provides its residents with perfect memories. They can see or review anything from the moment of their birth. All the people they are longing to see exist forever in their memories, and can see them as long as they desire. Of course, such a thing can also be interpreted as an everlasting curse. When a person comes to the realization that the people that they are longing for and loved most in the world are nothing but lingering memories, it is easy for them to break down emotionally and spiritually. In simple terms, death is not a fond place. And experiencing more than 1,000 times over could drive the strongest of men to madness. However, Wang Wei still did it, and voluntarily. He did not flinch for even a moment. For his conviction, for his Tao heart, for his path of emperor, he kept moving forward. And that is exactly what Wang Wei did the past 2 years. He tried many different approaches and attempts, all of which resulted in failure and death. In his 10th attempt, Wang Wei no longer relied simply on his powerful cultivation to fight the wrath of heaven. He learned that the power of groups can be more effective than the single individual. As such, he went on a path of conquest of the whole world. After his conquest, he rallied all the cultivators of the world and created a massive formation that envelopes the entire world. Then all the cultivators will inject their cultivation powers at certain nodes to fight the wrath of heaven. Although he was still unsuccessful, he learned from this attempt for his next several ones. As such, he created a powerful weapon with the help of all the refiners in the world, then a powerful talisman in his next attempt, then a powerful pill. On his 50th attempt, Wang Wei became an emperor with a massive kingdom that conquered the entire world. Then, he gathered the luck of all living beings and blessed himself to fight the wrath of heaven. He still failed and died miserable with all the people of his empire. On the 100th attempt, Wang Wei proclaimed himself as a supreme god and spread his benevolence throughout the world. He once again conquered the world and gathered the faith and incense of all living beings. He turned the mortal world into his kingdom of God, where he turned all his most devout believers into light messengers or archangels. Gathering the power of the whole kingdoms, he went on an expedition against the gigantic hand. In the end, he still failed and his god kingdom was destroyed. All his believers perished, but they still did so with a smile on their face as they embraced death with their beloved God. Despite his 100 attempts and 100 deaths, Wang Wei's will and fighting intent did not diminish for even a second. The fight must continue on. On his 250th attempt, a burst of madness enveloped Wang Wei. In order to win against the wrath of heaven, he set up a massive formation that surrounded the whole world, then used the world as a massive bomb against the gigantic hand. Afterward, only Wang Wei and his parents remained intact and alive, floating in the endless void of the universe. However, this fact did not remain true for long. The world bomb did not stop the gigantic hand, heck, it did not even hurt. Soon afterward, the wrath of heaven killed Wang Wei and his family. In his 587th attempt, Wang Wei once again established a supreme religion that engulfed the entire world. However, the god that the people worshipped was not him, but the supreme gigantic hand. In this attempt, Wang Wei placed himself in the role of servant and lauded the might and glory of the wrath of heaven. In desperation, Wang Wei had no choice but to humble himself in front of the big hand and see if he could spare him or at least spare his family. Unfortunately for him, his louche or shady action did not bring him the desired effect. The wrath of heaven still squashed him and his family into meat paste. Following this failure, Wang Wei became angry out of shame and fought more fiercely than ever against the big hand. On his 1200th attempt, he used the blood, flesh, and soul of all the people in the world to cast a powerful curse on the gigantic hand. This attempt did provide him with some success. The powerful curse managed to dramatically weaken the wrath of heaven, which in turn allowed Wang Wei to put on a slightly decent fight. However, the result was still the same: death and destruction. In the 2729th attempt, Wang Wei tried another drastic attempt. When the wrath of heaven came to him, he did not fight head-on. Instead, he kept dodging its attack. Their fight continued throughout the world, which resulted in the destruction of the world and extinction of all life. This was of course Wang Wei's plan. After the wrath of heaven destroyed the world and the people living in it, Wang Wei used a Tao of Karma technique to initiate a karmic backlash against the gigantic hand. With the cause and effect of destroying the world, the grievances of billions of lives severely weakened the gigantic hand even more than the previous curse. Unfortunately, he still failed and died. In his 5000th attempt, a deep despair overwhelmed Wang Wei when he realized that in all of his fights, he never managed to wound his opponent. He weakened it on many occasions. He fought with it to a standstill countless times for a long duration of time. However, he never managed to properly wound it. Wang Wei never saw the gigantic hand bleed even once. With such lingering thoughts, Wang Wei considered stopping the trial. At this period of time, he was the only person who kept on persisting. Both the first contemporary Sacred Son and Li Jun had stopped after more than 2,000 attempts, only he kept on going. At this point of time, Wang Wei realized that there might be no way to actually win this fight. The design of this trial is the despair of having an undefeatable enemy. The point that the elders were trying to teach them is to always insist and keep on fighting to the last breath. And during the process, temper the will and the heart as much as possible. So Wang Wei asked himself, was his will and heart tempered during this trial? The answer is of course yes. During the past 5,000 attempts, he had experienced countless suffering and deaths. Furthermore, he had learned a great deal of things and experienced many wonders of the world. Although this trial is a fantasy world and many of the things he did were actually not feasible in the real world, many of his experiences and knowledge that he acquired were actually quite real and useful. Especially those scriptures scattered all over the illusory world. In fact, the training of aristocratic families like him is actually quite rigid and severe. Do not look at novels in his previous life and see a bunch of young masters who are either unskilled or unlearned, yet they are the heir of their family with powerful cultivation. In fact, this is impossible, or at least in this world, it is impossible. Children like Wang Wei and Li Jun, or even the branch family have to learn a great deal of things at a young age. They have to learn proper etiquette, mannerism, speech, literature, poetry, calligraphy, and go. Additionally, they have to learn all kinds of sculptures that contain the laws and truth of heaven and earth, of the vast universe. These scriptures were the accumulation of countless sages and powerful cultivators throughout the inception of the Tao opening sect. In fact, many of the scriptures were written by the great emperors of the sect, as a way to enrich the foundation of the later generation. These children could not understand the majority of the content of these scriptures. Even Wang Wei could not fully understand some of them despite his heaven-defying understanding that his powerful soul provided him with. However, even if they could not understand them, they still have to memorize them. The same fact goes to the disciples of the sections. Although their training was not as strict as the family children unless they were the direct disciples of some powerful elders, they still had to read those boring scriptures. The reason for this is a form of enlightening of the Tao, a way to form a solid foundation for future cultivation. Many times some cultivators would suddenly become enlightening while doing mundane things or during a fight, which dramatically increase their cultivation levels or break through bottlenecks. The reason for that is due to the scriptures that they have studied at a young age. They may not understand these words of wisdom when they were young, but once the occasion arrives, the true meaning of these scripture will become clear to them and be the foundation of their enlightenment and understanding the laws of heaven and earth, thus furthering their path of cultivation. This is one of the main reasons that heaven chosen from powerful sects and families dominate the myriad emperor world. It's not just because they have better talents and more powerful cultivation techniques. These scriptures are the foundation that these families and sects have gathered for millions of years. In this world, there have been countless casual or loose cultivating geniuses, and many have even proven the Tao and proclaimed themselves great emperor. These people who have not formed families and sect have also left their legacy scattered all over the world. As long as someone is predestined, they could acquire these techniques that are not inferior to the heaven-chosens of the sects and families. However, not all of the lucky people could rise and make a name for themselves. The reason for that is not just the fact they did not have the same amount of resources from these powerful sects, but because they lack a certain background and foundation. Even if someone acquired a peerless cultivation sutra, if that person could not truly understand it, then it serves no actual purpose. At the very least, it could not bring to tuition its full potential. As such, the pagoda trial is more than a tool for polishing Tao heart, but a way to secretly train the knowledge and experience of these disciples. Although the cultivation techniques and realm in the pagoda are not real, the disciples can use them as reference when creating their own techniques if they have such talent. At the 5,000th attempt, Wang Wei came to the conclusion that he had learned a great deal of knowledge and experience, and his Tao heart has been greatly tempered. However, he kept asking himself, as he reached his limits. Wang Wei's dilemma on the 5,000th attempt lasted a while. He kept asking himself whether he had truly reached his limits and should have stopped. After agonizing with this question, for a while, he decided to stop. After all, he had truly tempered himself, and he also had the best record of all the disciples of the sect. He had nothing more to prove to anyone else. Just when Wang Wei was about to turn his thought into action, his mysterious intuition kicked in and warned that if he quit now, he might regret it later down the line during his later years of life. Wang Wei had always trusted his intuition, as it had helped and saved him countless times, even when he first reincarnated. After making his choice, Wang Wei once again entered the pagoda for his 5,000th attempts. This time, he chose a different way that he had never tried before: beg for mercy. Although this kind of thing does not fit his character and his pride, but for his family, for his further tempering, humbling himself is not unacceptable. In the previous trial, he had learned when to bow to circumstances. Additionally, begging is not inconsistent with Wang Wei's way of free and unfettered. As a person who pursues absolute freedom, he can do whatever he desires. If he wants to be a supreme being that all beings bow down to, he will. If one day he decides that the whole world is filthy and very disgusting to look at, he will cleanse it according to his standard, or he will gouge out his eyes and turn blind to it. If one day he suddenly wants to be a beggar or slave, he will be the humblest beggar and the lowliest slave. All things are according to his wish. After entering the pagoda for his new attempt, he went and lived in the deserted mountain, where he always had his destined confrontation with the wrath of heaven. There he built a simple wooden cottage, then had a cultivator create an artificial river, and a forest full of all kinds of animals and plants. Wang Wei lived a simple life every day. He woke up early every day, ate breakfast from hunting animals and plants in the forest and drank water from the river. Afterward, he would enter an empty room in the cottage, kneel down and kowtow to the wrath of heaven, asking for his forgiveness. This act of kneeling and begging would go on for 18 hours a day. Then, Wang Wei would go to bed and repeat the same routine the next day. This process lasted for decades. Every day, he would kneel and beg for mercy for 18 hours without missing a single day. Whether it was snowing or raining, he would still keep on going. Even if he was riddled with diseases and feebleness, he would continue on this practice for 18 hours, no more or less. As time passed and Wang Wei continued his ascetic-like life, his body became thin due to malnourishment. Although he ate every day, he had only had enough food to barely sustain him for the next day. Additionally, there were countless calluses on his knees due to the constant kneeling. In fact, his bones have in fact become somewhat deformed over the years. However, despite all these hardships, Wang Wei never stopped, not even for a single day. For Wang Wei, this excruciating process was not just a way to pass the trial, but a journey of penance and self-discovery. Wang Wei believed that only in the most painful times of someone's life that they can see themselves and discover what kind of person they are. Time soon passed and the day of the fateful encounter soon arrived. The mighty hand of heaven descended toward Wang Wei as scheduled and proceeded to completely annihilate him. However, something different happened this time. One of which is the fact that the gigantic hand did not kill Wang Wei's parents this time, only him. The second thing was the fact that the wrath of heaven actually communicated with him this time. Before destroying Wang Wei, a powerful and mighty voice echoes throughout the world directed toward him and shouted, "Ant, are you worthy?" Then Wang Wei was killed and exited the pagoda. After his exit, Wang Wei did not become angry that all his decades of action were actually in vain. This was a choice that he personally made, and he had to live with the consequences. No one owed him anything, especially the wrath of heaven. Just because he put in all the work does not necessarily mean he will be rewarded. Life is unfair and fate is the greatest impediment of life. Furthermore, he benefited a great deal throughout this trial. During his decades-long ascetic life, his state of mind had greatly sublimated. He had learned a great deal of things about himself. Although some of the things he realized about his nature were quite unpleasant, he had to live with the fact or try to change. Instead of agonizing over his failed plan, Wang Wei was thinking about the word of the wrath of heaven: is he worthy? He has been fighting with it for countless times, but never once has he proven that he was a worthy opponent of it. At best, Wang Wei could be seen as a great nuisance. A worthy opponent? Never. After thinking about this, Wang Wei's eyes immediately light up. Now he had finally found a real goal to accomplish in this trial. Even if he could not win the wrath of heaven, he will become a somewhat worthy opponent. After making up his mind, Wang Wei took a few days off to contemplate his next set of action. After pondering for a while, he soon discovered that he had used all the methods he could think of. The other methods he had left were simply slight deviations of the same idea, whether to use the luck of all beings as emperor or becoming the god of beings with faith. They are essentially the same method with different forms of execution. Although Wang Wei came to this sudden realization, he did not stop fighting. As long as he continued to fight, he would find a way forward. As long as the methods he uses from now are even a little better than previous ones, he will continue to fight. On his 6546th, Wang Wei tried to hide from the wrath of heaven. He cut off all his karma, erased memories of himself from all the people that knew him, or have ever seen him, including his parents. He removed all traces from his existence in the world. He even erased his presence or record of birth from the wheel of reincarnation. He even erased himself from the river of time. Technically, Wang Wei was never even born in this world. The last trace of his existence, that is his fate, was transferred to someone else. Wang Wei became a non-existent ghost of heaven and earth. It was as if he never appeared in this world. After doing all of this, he entered the endless void and left the whole world. On the fateful day, the wrath of heaven descended on the world. However, he could not find his little prey. In a burst of anger, it completely destroyed the whole world. After not finding his target, the gigantic hand became furious and destroyed the entire universe that Wang Wei was in. It was at this moment that Wang Wei truly realized the vast and mighty power of the wrath of heaven. All of his previous fights were probably child play. However, despite all of this, Wang Wei was not discouraged. The fight must continue on. On the 7923th attempt, Wang Wei tried a different approach. He conquered the whole world as an emperor. Then, he enforced laws that encouraged the people to give birth to people at all cost. He provided all kinds of rewards for families to give birth to more children. The more people a family has, the greater the status and wealth they have. In his madness, women throughout the world literally became birth machines, and men became stallions whose sole purpose was to impregnate women. In just a couple decades, the world's population increased from a few billions to a few trillions. Then he encircles the whole world with a powerful formation that takes the soul power of all living beings and blesses it to his soul. During this fight with the wrath of heaven, Wang Wei did not fight him head-on, but on the soul level. Unfortunately, he still failed and died miserably with the world. How could a being of such proportional strength have a weak soul? A soul is probably a low-level thing for the wrath of heaven. Wang Wei's actions were doomed to fail from the beginning. On his 9789th attempt, Wang Wei tried to parasitize the wrath of heaven. He believed that if he could acquire a few % of the hand's power, then he could have a prolonged fight with it and eventually be the last winner. This attempt was somewhat successful. Wang Wei created a cultivation technique that could parasitize a host, then take over their power. With this powerful Dao art, Wang Wei did acquire some of the powers of the wrath of heaven. However, before he could control said power, the gigantic hand triggered the imprint he had on its power, and Wang Wei was backlashed and died. Today is a great and memorable day in the Dao opening sect. The young sect master is going to try his last attempt in the pagoda, the 10,000th attempt. Many disciples and elders of the sect gather together to witness this momentous event. Discussions of this event are ubiquitous, from the lowest of servants to the highest echelons of the sects. All are discussing this event. Wang Wei, who is now 11 years old, stands in front of the pagoda with a calm look. In the past 2 years, he had changed a lot. He has become a lot taller, more handsome, and more mature. The biggest changes are his eyes and temperament. The edge had on him before was gone, replaced by a soothing and ethereal calmness. His will and determination that were easily noticeable from his eyes are now gone, replaced by a profound vastness that could engulf anything and everything. After a brief pause of silence, under the eyes of countless disciples and elders, Wang Wei enters the pagoda for his last and final attempt. Outside the pagoda, after Wang Wei enters the pagoda, all the disciples and elders stand in front of the visual formation watching. In the clouds, the sect master Wang Tian, and all the great elders and elders float in the void watching the trial while discussing the past 2 years. The great elder of the formation hall says, I cannot believe the amount of changes that have taken place in the sect during the past 2 years. This polishing Tao Heart Pagoda is a truly marveled idea. Yes, all the disciples have truly matured, and they all have made great progress in the cultivation levels, responds Great Elder Li Jiang with a truly joyous smile. The Great Elder Longbo scoffs at him and replies with annoyance, "You are only saying that because of the performance of your son." Upon hearing Great Elder Longbo's words, the other elders sigh. The past 2 years have brought a great deal of shock to all of them. Among all of the disciples of the sect, the person with the best performance beside Wang Wei is undoubtedly Li Jun, the son of Great Elder Li Jiang. Even the number 1 contemporary sacred son, Han Li, did not have a better record than Li Jun. You should know that Han Li has the number 12 physique, the heavenly thunder body, and has been cultivating for countless years. As for Li Jun, he is nothing but the most common genius in the Tao opening sect or even the entire myriad emperor world during this generation. On top of that, he is still a mortal who has not started cultivating yet. Despite all of these facts, his performance can still outshine Han Li. Many people might ask, what about Wang Wei? But the elders will never list him in the category of normal person. The young sect master is a person born with wisdom, a person with that is blessed by heaven. This fact was proven when vision occurred upon his birth. Throughout this generation, only a few people are born with vision. Many people believe that these people will be one of the major contestants for the heaven will. Great Elder Li Jiang, still with a smile on his face, answers back, "Longbo, you do not have to be jealous of this seat, son. Your direct disciple, Han Li, did his best in the trial. After all, having the 3rd best record is still something to brag about." Upon hearing these words, Great Elder Longbo's face becomes furious, and he stares menacingly at Great Elder Li Jiang. Seeing that both of them were about to argue, Great Elder Yanmei tries to turn the conversation to something else and says, "It is not just the disciples who have greatly benefited from the pagoda. All of us have made rapid progress in our cultivation after passing the 9 trials. Indeed, as Great Elder Yanmei has said, the majority of them have benefited a lot from the pagoda. With the tempering of their Tao heart, the chances of breaking through the next realm have either substantially increased, and the amount of time needed have decreased. The majority of them are in the saint realm. As such, each breakthrough in a small realm is a great increase in power and also takes a lot of time. However, the greatest benefit of this pagoda is not the small breakthrough in the saint realm, but providing the elders the state of mind needed to break through the supreme realm. One of the most necessary things to break through the supreme realm is having a state of mind that is in line with heaven and earth, in line with nature, in line with the great Tao. Although most cultivators are powerful, they have spent most of their lives either fighting or in retreat. Although cultivators can learn and use the laws of heaven and earth, however, they do not have the mindset on how to properly control these laws, or they do not even understand the difference between the law and the Tao. In order to step into the supreme realm, such a mindset is necessary. As such, most cultivators will enter mortal dust to refine their mindset. And what is mortal dust? Just like the name suggests, cultivators will seal their cultivation and live the life of mortals and experience the dust, filth, and vicissitudes of mortals. Mortal life is a brief and short 100 years. However, because of its briefness, one person can experience and learn a great deal of things in this short span of time. In order for cultivators to truly experience mortal dust, they have to truly enter the roles of mortal. They have to set their mindset to that of a short-lived creature. Many cultivators have to experience many cycles of 100 years before they can get into the roleplay of mortal life. Some extreme cultivators have even sealed their memories as a way to get into the mindset of mortals and learn enough about the world to step into the supreme realm. The elders who have entered the pagoda have tempered their mindset throughout the 9 pagoda trials, as many of the trials required them to be nothing but mortals. Some trials have even sealed their memories and provided them with a new different identities, which in fact is similar to the way cultivators experience mortal dust. As such, when it is their turn to experience mortal dust, they have a great advantage ahead of many people. Just such pagoda have increased their chance to step into the supreme realm by at least 5%, which is a high number given the fact that the Supreme Realm is the highest cultivation level that a person can step to on their own. Back to the pagoda. After entering the pagoda, Wang Wei did not do anything outrageous or daring in order to fight the wrath of heaven. In fact, he did not do anything extraordinary at all. He spends all of his life with his family and loved ones. He did not cultivate, conquer the world, or create some grandiose and elaborate plan. He lives all of this attempt as a normal person blessed with wealth, health, and a loving family. Many of the people watching outside became confused, but they did not stop watching. They know that things will never be as simple as seen, and they are right. When the fateful encounter arrived, Wang Wei set out to the place he always had his fight with the wrath of heaven. This place is where everything begins, and it is also the place where everything should end. Wang Wei stands on top of the mountain with a calm face, waiting for his predestined foe to arrive. He did not have to wait long. Soon, a gigantic hand descended from heaven heading toward Wang Wei to squash him. Things proceed as they always did, with Wang Wei's utmost defeat and death. However, the process did not go as easy as the wrath of heaven anticipated. When the gigantic hand reached Wang Wei, he did not fight or struggle despairingly. Instead, he looked straight at the gigantic hand. A supreme and indomitable will flows out of Wang Wei's weak mortal body. The will resisted the mighty power of the wrath of heaven for a whole 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, the gigantic hand manages to destroy the whole world and all of its billions of lives, then proceeds to destroy the entire universe just like he did previously. However, he still could not kill Wang Wei, he could not even slightly injure him. Despite the destruction of the world, despite the annihilation of the universe, despite being a mortal floating in the endless chaos, Wang Wei still looks at the gigantic hand with a calm look on his face for a whole 10 minutes. His look conveys his will that no matter how powerful the wrath of heaven is, no matter what heaven-defying action he takes, in these 10 minutes, his will is supreme, as long as his will is strong and firm enough, in all heaven and earth, he is almighty, he is transcendent. No one can kill him. Even if he was an actual ant right now, the gods, Buddhas, and immortals could do no harm to him. Not even the Pao. During the 10 minutes fight against the wrath of heaven, Wang Wei did suffer some injuries, but it was not due to the power of the gigantic hand. It was due to himself actually. 5 minutes into the fight, Wang Wei's body suddenly collapsed and disappeared, followed by the annihilation of his soul. However, he was still not dead yet. An illusory figure that looked exactly like Wang Wei appeared in the place where his body used to be. This illusory figure was not his soul, but a physical manifestation of his will. It turned out that Wang Wei's mortal body was too weak to bear his supreme and powerful will, as such, it was destroyed. However, his will still maintained a fight against the wrath of heaven. In fact, Wang Wei believed that even if he had cultivated to the highest cultivating realm possible, his body probably would not be able to support such will and determination. Back to the fight, during the confrontation with the wrath of heaven, a roar of anger echoes throughout the infinite chaos. The wrath of heaven was enraged at the fact that the ant that he should be able to squash at will managed to resist his might to such a degree. This was a great insult. As such, the gigantic hand decided to increase its power. With the wave of its hand, all the 3,000 Tao that make up heaven and earth were completely obliterated, the infinite chaos was shattered and the illusory world returned to its origin of nothingness. However, despite all of these, Wang Wei's will still remained intact, it remained indestructible and unbreakable. Meanwhile, outside of the pagoda, when the wrath of heaven used such a powerful method, a great change occurred. The pagoda started to tremble and shake wildly. Suddenly, the atmosphere of the entire Tao opening sect changed. A mysterious feeling enveloped the entire sect, everything suddenly became bleak and somber. The upper echelons of the Tao opening sect were able to feel the atmosphere more seriously than the disciples. They suddenly felt that the confrontation between Wang Wei and the gigantic hand was more than a mere trial, they felt as if this confrontation involved the fate of all the people in the world. Although this mysterious feeling only lasted a few minutes and then disappeared, the upper echelons of the sect knew that their feelings were not wrong. They instinctively knew that something beyond their comprehension must have happened. They took notes of this change and planned to review the sect's record to see if they can find any precedent or information. In the 10th minute of Wang Wei's fight against the gigantic hand, right before he exited the pagoda, something unexpected happened again. A drop of blood suddenly dropped from the gigantic hand and fell into the nothingness of the universe. In the palm of the wrath of heaven, there was a slight opening, a slight wound in which a drop of blood flew out. The wrath of heaven was injured. For the first time in 10,000 battles, the gigantic hand suffered from an injury and actually bled. This was truly a miracle. Everyone watching this scene outside of the pagoda were shocked, even the elders. No one has managed to ever wound the gigantic hand, not even the great elders and sect master. In fact, the people most shocked were actually the great elders of the formation hall and refining hall. As they participated in the refining of the pagoda, they both knew that the setting of the 9th pagoda trial was designed as an almighty and powerful supreme being that brought absolute despair to the testers. According to the setting, it is impossible to wound the wrath of heaven. What the young sect master did was like someone finding a bug in real life. Life can be considered the most perfect program, it is smooth, absolute, and perfect. How can there be a bug in life just like in games? However, that is exactly what Wang Wei did. He found, or should say created a bug in a perfect and absolute program. This is, in essence, a true miracle. Meanwhile, inside the pagoda, Wang Wei watched the blood of the wrath of heaven drop down and fall into emptiness. He smiles happily and mutters to himself and to the gigantic hand, "Now, I am more than worthy." Soon afterward, Wang Wei's will disappears and he exits the pagoda. After his exit, Wang Wei ponders the state he experienced in the pagoda. He tries to do it again, however, he fails. This is not a surprise, after all, this is the real world, not the pagoda. However, Wang Wei knows that a seed has been planted. When the right circumstances arrive, he knows that he has the foundation to reach such a state again. All he has to do is wait for the right time and place. While Wang Wei was pondering his experience in the 9th trial, a huge shadow suddenly appeared behind him. The shadow, who looks exactly like a grown-up Wang Wei, sits on a throne with countless beings bowing to him. This is the shadow representing the young emperor. Unlike last time, the full figure of the shadow became transparent and a throne was added. When the shadow appears, an overbearing aura surrounds the whole Tao opening sect. All the disciples except for the contemporary sacred son kneel down and were forced to bow to Wang Wei. In fact, both the contemporary sacred son and the elders felt a very spiritual pressure forcing them to bow their head. Of course, due to the vast difference of cultivation level, they could ignore the pressure. However, imagine if they had to fight while resisting this pressure, this would be quite the difficult fight. Unfortunately, the shadow did not fully manifest. After Wang Wei finishes his pondering, the shadow disappears like an illusion. Upon waking up, Wang Wei sees a bunch of disciples kneeling and bowing to him, and he becomes shocked. Immediately, he thought of something and said, "You can all stand up." After hearing his words, all the disciples stood up and looked at Wang Wei with awe and reverence, and a little bit of fear. Upon seeing the change of emotions of the sect's disciples, Wang Wei knew that his prestige in the sect would reach a high time from now on. No one can shake his status from now on. Although he will still have to deal with some temptations in the future, as long as he deals with them in a timely manner, everything will be fine. Wang Wei then makes a gesture toward his head maid, who then holds him and flies toward the Wang family mansion. Wang Wei knows that the first step of his rise in the path of the emperor has been taken. All he needs to do is to slowly walk the path he laid out and prepares for the future. As long as he prepares as much as possible, then no matter the outcome, he can accept it and calmly says that he had tried his best. The impact of Wang Wei's 9th trial lasted for more than a month. Throughout the Tao opening sect, many disciples kept discussing the mighty prowess of their young sect master, and they all had a happy smile on their face, as they looked forward to a better future. They all hoped that their sect could have a new great emperor. Meanwhile, in the Wang family mountain, Wang Wei has been pondering what he learned throughout all the 9 trials. After passing each trial, he became a better person, a more qualified cultivator. The trial that affected him the most has to be the 5th trial. In that trial, Wang Wei almost lost himself. In order to acquire power, he was willing to do absolutely anything. He had no bottom line whatsoever. He was even willing to kill his own mother. Although he woke up at the last minute, he still had a lingering fear when he thought about how close he came to losing himself to power and becoming its slave. During this trial, Wang Wei's greatest fear since coming to this world manifested. He truly feared that during his journey to the throne of emperor, the cultivating world would slowly change him and turn him into a greedy and heartless monster that lust for power. After all, despite all the changes that has happened to Wang Wei the past 10 years, his essence is still a modern man who lived in a society of law and order. He has not truly blended into this world yet. In fact, today, he is going to take another step to modify his way of thinking, and also to prepare for his future. After his self-meditation, he proceeds to call his head maid Wang Ju, who is in fact from one of the Wang family branch lines. After a rigid and rigorous training process with more than 1,000 candidates, she was chosen to serve Wang Wei. Wang Ju walks into the room, bows and salutes, "Young master." "Did you get what I asked for?" answers Wang Wei directly. "Yes, just like you asked for. 10 heinous criminals from the mortal world are locked in the basement. Each of them have committed horrendous crimes like rape, murder of children, and even cannibalisms." After hearing Wang Ju's words, Wang Wei nods in satisfaction and orders, "You can leave now." Wang Ju slightly bows to him and proceeds to leave without asking any question. One of her training as a head maid and information agent is to never ask the superior any question. Things that she should know will be told to her. Things that she should not know, she does not dare to ask. That's the motto of every properly trained maid. If one day she ever crosses any of these 2 rules, she knows what awaits her is only death. After seeing his head maid leave, Wang Wei was even more satisfied with her. The Wang family trained her properly, and Wang Ju is actually quite capable. After taking a few breaths to calm down, Wang Wei journeys toward the basement. Today, he is going to do something to prepare for his future. He is going to take another major step toward his future. Today, he is going to personally see blood, he is going to kill. Although Wang Wei has committed many acts of mass genocide during the pagoda trial, however, things are actually different in real life. In the trials, he could internalize his actions by telling himself that this world is in fact just a mere dream, a very realistic illusion. That his actions had no real consequences, that the people in the illusion were nothing but NPCs in a game. As such, he did not really feel anything when he killed someone. However, reality is different from the illusion world of the pagoda. This time, he is going to take an actual life. As a person born in modern society with normal ethical views, how could he easily kill someone and shrunk it like it was nothing? Wang Wei remembers reading about the protagonists from the novels in his past life. Every time they first kill someone, they act as if it was nothing. It was as if what they had just done is comparable to daily drinking of water. These protagonists usually defend themselves by saying that the world is the law of the jungle, big fish preys on little fish. Although they are indeed right, the world of cultivation is indeed brutal. However, these protagonists just got into the world, and they could immediately change their mindset like that. To Wang Wei, most of these protagonists were actually already mentally unstable. The world did not change them, not it just reveals their already insane or problematic mentality. The law and order of modern society are just shackles to these protagonists. However, Wang Wei is different. He was a normal human being with normal ethical views. Although he always has been a person of great determination, in many ways, he is still a normal person. Wang Wei continues to walk steadily toward the basement. Today, he must kill these prisoners. And it is not because of his moral views that evil must be eradicated. No, it was because his mentality needs to change. After spending so much time in this world, Wang Wei has realized that he is different from the children of this world. All the children of the same age as him have the mindset that killing is not morally wrong, but a way to display might and heroism. They grew up hearing tales of their father and ancestors fighting and slaughtering countless cultivators. And these parents instilled the idea that one day, they will do the same too. As a result of this, killing for these children is nothing at all. Wang Wei once watched a 5-year-old kill a servant for making a mistake. Although he tried to stop it, it was already too late. The servant was already dead by the time he arrived. It was at that moment that he realized how different his mindset was from everyone else. Unfortunately for him, in this world, his mindset is considered wrong and dangerous. As a person who hopes to one day walk the path of emperor, being compassionate is the last trait that he needs. The throne of emperor is one made of blood and bones of countless cultivators. Knowing all of these, Wang Wei has long prepared to slowly set his mindset in the right place instead of directly being thrown into a situation in which he has to face his flaws unprepared. Wang Wei slowly enters the basement. Inside lies 10 men wearing tattered linen cloth with iron chains biting both their hands and feet. A cloth is used to forcibly close their mouth and prevents them from speaking. Wang Wei slowly looks at each of them. From their facial expression, he could see the great fear and dread in their eyes. It was the fear of death approaching them, yet being totally powerless to prevent it. In fact, not all of them are actually afraid. From the subtle soul fluctuation that Wang Wei could perceive, a few of them were actually quite calm, and a cunning gleam of light could be seen deep in their eyes. Wang Wei could tell that these criminals were actually trying to find a slight chance of survival. The fear that they have displayed on their face is nothing but a farce to disarm him, a way for them to try to get him to either have sympathy for them or lower his guard. Wang Wei ignores all of the looks that these prisoners were giving him. He walks to a table in the room and picks up a long knife. Then, proceeds toward the first prisoner and stands in front of him. Wang Wei looks at the prisoner while his hand holding the saber tremors slightly. A great amount of dread suddenly overcomes him. He hesitates. This is a life that he was about to take. No matter how sinful said life was, it is still a life. What right does he have to take it away? If he does take their lives, would he be any better than them? While Wang Wei was dealing with this ethical and philosophical dilemma, the prisoners started to have hope. They hoped that this young master would have sympathy for them and let them spend the rest of their lives in prison. It took a total of 30 minutes for Wang Wei to make a decision. He looks at the first prisoner, with trembling hands, screams out loud and stabs him repeatedly. Wang Wei did not know how many times he stabbed the poor bastard. After the first stab, he had immediately lost consciousness. All he could rely on was instinct. When he woke up, his robe was full of blood. He sat on the floor with a dead body and 9 horrified prisoners. He started to think about what he has just done. Soon, the realization that had taken a life dawned on him. He asked himself, did he regret it? The answer is of course yes. It is true that these people are in fact quite wicked and deserve death. However, no matter what excuse he could come up with, a life is a life. Afterward, Wang Wei asked himself, if he was given the chance to redo it again, would he still make the same choice? The answer he came up with is still yes. He is a person destined to walk the path of the emperor. In the future, the amount of lives that will end on his own hand will be incalculable. What he had just done was just the first step in order to adapt. It is true that the act of killing someone is actually quite the horrible feeling. Unfortunately, he will have to get used to this feeling until he can completely ignore it or he becomes numb to it. After realizing all of this, Wang Wei had a feeling that something of great importance was taken away from. And he knew that he would never be able to take it back. Soon after Wang Wei entered the basement, someone appeared in Tianwei Peak to report to Sect Master Wang Tian. Wang Tian, who was reviewing a bunch of documents from different jade talismans, suddenly asks to the empty void without even raising his head, "Shadow, what are you reporting to me today?" The shadow answers in his hoarse and indifferent voice, "A few minutes ago, the young master entered the basement with a bunch of prisoners, and he exited the basement with blood all over his clothes." After hearing the shadow's word, Wang Tian immediately understood what these words meant. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the Wang family mountain. His vision penetrated more than 1,000 miles of distance. It passed through countless formations and obstacles and saw his son. At this time, Wang Tian saw that his son's body was still full of blood, and he was waiting for the maids to prepare a bath for him. Wang Tian could also see that the state of his son was not good right now. After finishing checking on Wang Wei, sect master Wang Tian sighed in relief. Actually, throughout the years, Wang Tian had noticed that his son was quite different from ordinary people. According to his years of observing and analyzing, he came to the conclusion that the core values of his son were completely different from all the people of the world. His son's core values involve the idea that order and restraint is necessary for the development of society, that all people are created equal. And more importantly, killing and slaughtering is morally wrong. When Wang Tian noticed these core values from his son, he was completely worried. In this world where cultivators rule and dictate everything, these values or ideas are not only worth nothing but are quite dangerous. How can cultivators who have 100,000 years of lifespan, can destroy rivers, move mountains, and pick up the stars be equal to ordinary mortals? Furthermore, having such powerful strength, what cultivator would allow someone else to formulate laws that restrain them? As for the act of no killing, that's what worried Wang Tian the most. His son had long decided to walk the path of emperor. How can he not experience mountains of flesh and blood? Being decisive when killing is a fundamental requirement necessary for every great emperor. This is something that Wang Wei always lacked. Wang Tian believed that after experiencing the pagoda trial, this situation might change for the better. However, from the reaction of his son after his first kill, it seemed that his core values are deeply ingrained in him. However, now, sect master Wang Tian did not need to worry about his son. From Wang Wei's action, he realized that his son had noticed this problem, and was proactive in solving it himself. As such, Wang Tian did not have to take action himself. After finishing his thought, Wang Tian motioned for the shadow to leave, and continued reviewing the affairs of the sect. Soon, 7 days passed. During the past few days, Wang Wei had many nightmares that woke him up at night. In these nightmares, he would always see the face of the prisoners he had killed. They would hunt and torment him in every way possible. However, despite all of these, he always killed a few more prisoners the next day. No matter how bad his nightmares were, no matter how nauseous he was after each kill, he would continue to take a life at least once a day. Wang Wei knew that killing will become a common thing for him from now on. It is imperative that he learns how to get used to it. Today, Wang Wei was having dinner with his mother. He chatted with her while eating. However, Yu Yan could tell that her son was not paying attention. She had already learned about what happened with her son through her husband. Additionally, she also noticed the recurring nightmares he had in the past 7 days. When it comes to this matter, there were only a few things that she could help, and she was already ready to do her part. Yu Yan lightly shook her son and asked him, "Wei, are you listening to what I'm saying?" Wang Wei woke up from his daze and answered apologetically, "I'm sorry, mother, I was a little distracted." "What were you saying?" "I was talking about the story about how me and your father met and fell in love." "That's right. So what happened between the two of you?" Yu Yan coughed lightly and started telling the story again in a strange and magnetic voice. As she spoke, each of her words contained a slight unknown fluctuation. "Me and your father were one of the brightest heaven chosen of our era. We defeated countless so-called geniuses all over the myriad emperor world. Even me and him have fought numerous times." "Oh, how come you guys fought?" "And who was the winner?" asked Wang Wei intriguingly. Yu Yan answered, "As you know, I'm from the Yu aristocrat family. Our family only has one great emperor. As such, I was trained as the next heir of the family and fought for the heaven mandates of our generation. Because of this, me and your father fought a lot in our times. As for who won and lost..." After saying this, Yu Yan stopped for a while with a little bit of shame on her face. Then she continued. "Your father was truly an impressive heaven chosen back then. His created Absolute Cut Sword Sutra was truly a magnificent technique with boundless prospect. I never beat him in a direct confrontation. Wang Wei immediately replied, direct confrontation. Does that mean you won against him using crooked methods? Upon hearing, Yu Yan became angry out of shame and lightly slapped the back of Wang Wei's head and said, "What do you mean by crooked method? Boy, on the path of emperor, any victory accomplished by any means is still a victory." Upon hearing his mother's scolding, Wang Wei laughed wryly and decided not to argue with her. So he immediately changed the subject and asked, "If you guys were enemies, how did you fall in love?" Once Yu Yan heard her son's question, she secretly smiled. Wang Wei himself did not notice the fact that during this conversation, he was not once distracted or dozed off. He forgot the psychological torments that he had endured the past 7 days. The reason for that was that Yu Yan secretly used a hypnotic technique that distracted Wang Wei and focused entirely on her words. This technique is a simple application of the soul after entering the primordial spirit realm. Of course, cultivators in the supernatural and divine body realm can do it too, but it would not be so exquisite and subtle. Yu Yan continued her story. We fell in love while visiting one of the 6 forbidden land, the Blood Earth, located in the northern Black Tortoise continent. Mother, wait, I thought that the forbidden lands were a death place. Anyone who entered will die, even great emperors. Yu Yan slapped him again and said, "Don't interrupt me. The forbidden lands are indeed dangerous even for great emperors, but that is only the core area. Every once in a while, these forbidden lands would open and countless cultivators would swarm there to find their own opportunities. Me and your father were the same. Unfortunately, even the outer areas are full of dangers and few cultivators that entered could survive and make it out alive. I met your father there and we were besieged by a bunch of blood azuras. In order to get out there alive, we decided to cooperate. During countless fights, after saving each other's life many times, we developed a bond deeper than friendship and eventually fell in love." Wang Wei was a little fascinated by the love story of his parents. However, he did not think things were as simple as his mother stated. Both of them shouldered the hope and dreams of their family. How could they easily give up such things for love? After pondering this question, he directly asked his mother. Yu Yan, with a look of reminiscing on her face, responded, "In order to prevent our family from intervening in our relationship, we made a heavenly vow that we will do all of our best during the fight for heaven mandate, and no matter the outcome, it will not change or affect our love for one another. However, as you know, things didn't go the way we planned. Our generation was quite unlucky. Well, maybe it was for the best. Our family is happily together now, and we still had the blessing of having you." After saying this, Yu Yan gently caressed the top of Wang Wei's head, which made him a little bit embarrassed. His mother always likes to caress the top of his head. While Wang Wei was distracted and trying to remove his mother's hand from his head, Yu Yan secretly crushed a pill into powder and put it in Wang Wei's milk on the table. Following this, she said, "Okay, there is no need to be embarrassed. I am your mother after all. I've changed your diaper countless times when you were a baby. Even if one day you become a great emperor, this fact will not change. Go finish your meal and drink your milk." Wang Wei sighed helplessly and followed his mother's order. He ate and drank his milk. Well, for some reason, he found that the milk tasted different from before. He has been drinking this milk ever since he was 3 months old, and was very accustomed to its taste. This milk is taken from a Saint level 7 colored cow, and has great effect on nourishing the body, and establishing a solid foundation for cultivating. The 7 colored cow is a very docile demon race that have been domesticated by the Tao opening sect for millions of years to train their disciples. Of course, only a few people like Wang Wei can get access to the Saint level cows. Wang Wei continued drinking his milk and came to the conclusion that maybe he thought too much about it. The milk still tasted very delicious, better than anything he had tasted in his previous life. Maybe one of the maids added new ingredients to it to enhance the taste. After thinking about this, he left the matter to the side. After finishing his meal, Wang Wei went back to his room and prepared to take a bath and rest. Soon after his bath, Wang Wei had one of the best sleep of his life. He had no nightmare, no dream, no thoughts, just a deep and peaceful slumber. Later that night, Wang Tian returned home after dealing with all the sex affairs. When he saw his wife, he immediately asked, "Did you do it? Did you give him the soothing heart pill?" Yu Yan looked at him, snorted, and angrily said, "Of course I did. Are you doubting my abilities?" Wang Tian was immediately perplexed. Where did his wife's hostility come from? He started thinking whether he did something wrong. Well, he could not think of something. The only thing that came to mind was Great Elder Yan Mei. However, ever since his son's birth, he had even started to stay away from her. The only time they met was during official sect meetings. Instead of figuring out what's the problem, he directly asked, "What is the problem? Why are you so angry?" Yu Yin answered grudgingly, "I just don't understand why we have to feed our son the heaven-grade soothing mind pill when the saint-grade enlightening pill would be much better. I'm telling you, Wang Tian, if your Dao opening sect cannot afford to treat Wei better, my Yu family will be more than happy to do it." Upon hearing his wife's word, Sect Master Wang Tian's corner of the mouth twitched slightly. Heaven-grade pills are used by void-shattering realm cultivators. Each one is beyond precious and could lead to countless people fighting and killing over a single one. Not to mention that the soothing Ming pill can help cultivators enter an empty state of mind to better understand and control the laws. The value of this pill is simply unimaginable. In fact, there is very little market for them as most factions in the world controlled the distribution of those pills to prevent casual cultivators from acquiring them. Now, this precious pill was used as a way to prevent a child from having nightmares, but his wife seemed dissatisfied and wanted to use a more valuable one. The enlightening pill has the same effect as the soothing Ming pill, but the intensity is countless times greater, and as such, it is effective for Saint Realm cultivators. The preciousness of this pill can be imagined. In fact, Wang Tian used this pill to cultivate himself, as did many great elders and elders of the sect. How can it be used to treat a child's nightmare? Although the Dao opening sect does not lack this kind of pill with its foundation, it does not mean it can be as extravagant as this. After forcing himself to calm down, Wang Tian said in a gentle tone, "Wife, calm down. A saint-grade pill is too powerful for Wei to take. Instead of helping, it could do more harm instead." Yu Yin glanced at him and said, "You can say whatever you want, but you cannot hide the fact that you are being cheap with your son. Tonight, you do not need to sleep in our bedroom. You can meditate in your cultivating room." After saying this, Yu Yin left without even looking at him. Wang Tian watched his wife leaving with a wry smile on his face, and thought to himself, "It seems that tonight, I will not sleep. I will just go meditate." Soon afterward, Wang Tian left in the opposite direction. After his wonderful rest last night, Wang Wei woke up full of vitality and spirit. He had no nightmare, no haunting dreams of the people he had killed, he just slept peacefully. After waking up, Wang Wei started to ponder about the past 7 days. He asked himself, why is killing so wrong? Why was such a strong aversion to killing deeply ingrained into himself? To Wang Wei, such a strong ethical concept of right and wrong was not in tune with his way of free and unfettered. How can someone who aspires to reach the highest state of absolute freedom be restrained by societal constraints or shackles such as not killing people? To Wang Wei, the idea of not killing was actually ingrained in him by modern society as a way to better control the masses. Throughout the history of Earth, the act of killing was actually quite the normal act. Whether it was our ancestor who did it as a way to survive the wild or even throughout the celestial dynasty's history, killing was a way for people to not only defend themselves, but to display their superior status. It was only during modern eras that killing was declared wrong. Then, the government used education and law to morally and spiritually restrain the people and made them believe that killing was wrong. As a person who aspired to be free and unfettered, Wang Wei should never be restrained, he should never have any shackles on him, especially on his mind, on his way of thinking. The only shackles he should have are the ones he willingly placed on himself. After figuring this out, Wang Wei suddenly heard something break from his mind, and he felt his thinking more visible and clear. He felt that his soul was sublimated and his thinking even more active than it was before. Many things he did not understand became more clear. The many fears and indecisive thoughts he had became apparent to him. He knew where these thoughts came from and could control them. In simple words, Wang Wei had a better understanding of himself and could better control his emotions and his mind. After his sublimation, all his fears and dread about killing were gone. He had become more decisive when doing things from now on. Wang Wei knew that from this moment on, he would never have any more nightmares. He had taken one more step closer to his goal of being free and unfettered. After lifting the shackle of his mind, Wang Wei immediately realized that his previous state was quite wrong. His reaction against killing was too strong. Although as a modern man, he would be averse to killing, the situation should not reach the point of having nightmares for 7 consecutive days. His adaptability should be quite strong, especially after experiencing so much in the pagoda trials. His situation reminds him of people who faced heart tribulations or heart demons. However, such things as heart tribulation usually occurred to cultivators of the primordial spirit realm. How can it happen to a mortal like him? Well, things seem to be not so simple. Wang Wei took a note of what happened and hoped to find the answer in the library later on when he has time. Now he had more important things to do. After his breakthrough in his state of mind, Wang Wei got up from the bed and had a maid prepare everything for his morning routine. Afterward, he called his head maid Wang Ju into the room. When Wang Ju walked into the room, he saw the young master sitting cross-legged on a futon. Immediately, Wang Ju noticed something different about the young master. In the past week, Wang Ju had noticed that the state of the young master was wrong. He always had heavy bags under his eyelids, which indicate his lack of sleep. Wang Ju wanted to know what had happened in order to help, but he was warned by the sect madam not to intervene in this matter. As such, she did as she was told without question. However, today, Wang Ju noticed that there were no heavy bags under the young master's eyelids. Of course, that was not the most significant change or difference. In the eyes of the young master, she noticed a coldness, indifference, and decisiveness that was not there before. She was shocked by this discovery because the young master had changed so much in such a short period of time. In fact, in normal circumstances, it was very difficult for Wang Ju to notice such a drastic change of temperament from Wang Wei, as he was used to hiding his emotions and remaining calm. However, he had just had a change in his state of mind, and had not quite adjusted yet. Furthermore, Wang Wei had decided not to always keep a poker face all the time, and hide his emotion. This did not fit his philosophy of freedom. If he wants to show his emotion, then he will show it. There is no need to hide it unless he desired to. He had nothing to hide and nothing to prove to anyone. After seeing Wang Ju, Wang Wei asked her to report the information from the past 7 days. Since he was in a bad state, he had not listened to her during the past week. After finishing hearing her report and noticing that there was nothing important to take note of, he got down to business. Wang Wei then said to her, "Wang Ju, you did a good job keeping things in order during my absence in the past few days." Wang Ju bowed and responded, "Thank you, young master." Wang Ju was just doing her jobs properly. Wang Wei nodded slightly and continued, "Now, it is time to get things in motion. Go to my father and tell him that 3 days later, I'm going to invite Hanli to meet me and accomplish the previous abolished plan." After saying this, there was a cold and ruthless light that rapidly flashed from Wang Wei's eyes, then immediately disappeared afterward. Upon hearing Wang Wei's word, Wang Ju was shocked, and her mouth was opened in O shape. As someone who was trained to always keep her emotion in check, this was indeed a big change for her. Wang Ju can be considered one of the people that spend the most time with Wang Wei. As such, she knows a great deal about him. From his habit to his preferences, from his temperament to his secret action, she knows all about it. As such, she knows a lot of his secrets, including his secret plan toward the number 1 contemporary sacred son, Hanli. She also knows that the young master had shelved or stopped this plan, because it could be quite detrimental to Hanli, and the young master did not want to hurt people from the same sect. However, now, the young master had changed his mind and decided to go on with this plan. How would she not be shocked? As a person who deals with information, she was used to creating profiles for people she met and distinguishing their habits and temperament in order to determine their actions. As such, she did the same for the young master. Of course, it was not to anticipate his actions, but to understand him and better serve him. She was one of the few people who knew that Wang Wei was actually quite the docile and gentle person, who did not want to hurt anybody, especially for his own interest. However, now, things seemed to have changed. The young master was no longer the gentle person he used to be. Now he seemed more ruthless and decisive. Maybe this was for the best, thought Wang Ju as she left the room, and headed toward Tianwei Peak to meet the sect master and delivered the message. Wang Ju walked into Tianwei Peak, and handed over the message of the young master to the sect master, bowed politely and left. The things that were about to unfold were not things that she could get involved with. The less she knows now, the better for her. She only has a little part to play in the grand scheme of things, nothing more, nothing less. When Wang Tian received his son's message, he was momentarily surprised, followed by a great deal of ecstasy. He knew that his son had crossed over a strong hurdle that would lead him to becoming a true powerhouse. Wang Tian muttered to himself with satisfaction, "Good, good. Enough with this woman's sissy compassion. If you wish to one day reach the top, you have to step on the bones of countless people." Afterward, a secret message was sent through talisman from the sect master to many elders and great elders of the sect. However, not all of them received the message. Following the talisman, a meeting of the highest secret took place in the Dao opening sect. Even Wang Wei and a few supreme elders have attended this meeting. 3 days later, Wang Ju flew to the mountain occupied by Hanli, the #1 contemporary sacred son. In this mountain, the spiritual energy was extremely abundant. The vegetation grew wildly, yet had a strange beauty to them. Despite being at a high altitude, the weather was warm and sunny, like the end of spring and the coming of summer. There were countless servants that took care of every aspect of the mountain and the daily life of Hanli. In the middle of the mountain, there lies an ancient manor made of some special wood. However, unlike the sunny atmosphere around most of the mountain, the manor had a gloomy or bad-weathered vibe. There was a dark cloud hovering over it, with thunder blasting in the back of the manor sporadically. The thunder was actually quite powerful, and as such, only a few servants could approach that area. The center of the thunder strike was actually the place that Hanli cultivated. As a person with the heavenly thunder physique, the power of thunder was like an intimate friend to him. It was also quite beneficial to his cultivation. Wang Ju entered the manor and was received by a male servant. He was the supervisor of the manor, a position similar to the head maid. Wang Ju proceeded by mentioning her intention, then the supervisor went to notify Hanli. When Hanli learned that the head maid of the young sect master came to find him, he was a little shocked, as he did not have any interaction with Wang Wei. Follow which, he said to his supervisor, "Go invite her in. I want to know her purpose in coming all the way here." Soon afterward, Wang Ju entered the cultivation palace of Hanli and met him personally. The first impression that Wang Ju had of Hanli was that he was very aggressive. There was thunder flashing constantly in his eyes. He gave the feeling that you have done something wrong, as such, heaven will punish you. Wang Ju bowed politely and said, "Hello, young master Hanli." Answered Hanli, then proceeded to directly ask, "What brought you to my manor?" "My young sect master has invited young master Hanli to come drink tea and discuss some important matter." "Oh, what important matter could that be?" asked Hanli in surprise. "Sir, you are embarrassing me. How could this lowly maid know what important matter the young master wants to discuss?" answered Wang Ju with a calm face, without any emotions on her face. Of course, Hanli did not believe her words. He knew that Wang Ju was in charge of the intelligence network of Wang Wei. Even if she did not know the exact details, she was bound to know a little information. Hanli knew that such an invitation was not a simple discussion. As a direct disciple of great elder Longbo, he belonged to the sectarian faction of the sect, while the young sect master belonged to the Wang family. The factions have been fighting and competing for countless years. Now, suddenly, he received an amiable invitation from his competitor. How can things be as simple as a discussion? After thinking about it for a few moments, Hanli decided to go and see what the young sect master was planning. He believed that with his superior cultivation level and the backing of his master, nothing will happen to him during this visit. Despite this though, he decided to take certain precautions before heading there. As such, he said to Wang Ju, "Very well, I will attend the tea meeting. However, please give me a few minutes to prepare first before heading there." Wang Ju nodded politely in acknowledgement of Han Li's preparation before departure. Then waited quietly for him. Han Li entered a secret room. He took a deep breath to adjust his state, checked all his magic equipment in his space ring, then took out a talisman and informed his mentor Great Elder Longbow about the meeting. After doing all of his preparation, he followed Wang Ju to the Wang clan's exclusive mountain, where Wang Wei waited for them with freshly brewed hot tea. Meanwhile, a few minutes after Han Li's departure from his mountain, his mentor, Great Elder Longbow, received a message talisman from his disciples. Longbow was meditating when he received the talisman from his disciples. At first he was quite puzzled about why Wang Wei invited his disciple to meet him. Then he remembered the secret plan that was previously abandoned due to the kindness of the young sect master. He was one of the most prominent opposition to this plan, as it was very detrimental to his own disciple. After thinking about this, Longbow immediately opened the formation, and left his cultivating hall, and headed toward the Wang family mountain to stop his disciple. However, as soon as he exited the mountain, a few powerful aura immediately locked on him, and prevented him from going further. Great Elder Longbow's face became angry, and he immediately appeared in the cloud where he saw Great Elder Yanmei and Li Jiang leading a few other elders to surround and stop him. Longbow became more furious when he saw these people, as he knew that he could not stop the suffering of his disciples. Longbow asked them angrily, "Yanmei, Li Jiang, I thought we have already decided to stop the previous plan. Why are you doing this now?" Great Elder Yanmei answered nonchalantly, "The young master changed his mind, so the plan must go on." "What about my disciple?" replied Longbow furiously. "Some sacrifices are necessary for the future of the sect. The Tao opening sect had not had a great emperor for too long. If the so-called 9-emperor curse is not lifted, the only thing awaiting us is the inevitable downhill of the sect. Our status as the most powerful sect will be impacted, following which the chi luck of the sect will also start to go downhill. If sacrificing your disciples can provide the young sect master a better chance at proving the Tao, then he must be sacrificed for the greater good of the sect." Upon hearing Li Jiang's cold and ruthless answer, Longbow became quiet. He knew that what Li Jiang said was right, and if he was in their shoes, he would make the same choice. However, now, it was his faction that had to make the sacrifice. He was quite unwilling. Longbow did not give up immediately. He looked in a certain direction and said, "Can you guys not do anything? Just watch as they sacrifice one of our own like this." Right now, the only option available to Longbow is to invite his fellow sectarian faction to take sides with him, and prevent the incoming fate of his disciple. Following Longbow's words, a sigh riveted in the empty void from far away, then someone said, "Longbow, I understand how you feel, but this is not the time for infighting. Even the Supreme Elders have already decided to keep exacting the plan. There is nothing you can do to stop it. Additionally, the sect has already voted to compensate your disciple afterward. He will not lose much." Longbow became more furious when he discovered that even people of the same faction with him did not take his side. He looked coldly at Great Elder Yanmei and Li Jiang, then at the direction of his allies, then returned to his mountain. He had to make a new plan for the future and find a way to help his disciple. The other people of the sectarian faction may have given up for the greater good of the sect, but he was not reconciled to quell his ambitions yet.